Oh. Hello. Hope everybody's having a good day out there today. Let me get my charger hooked up and I'm going to go ahead and get started. What up, Roberto? Glad you're there, man. Appreciate you being here today. Alright. Let me get focused here. And I'm going to jump into this lesson. Get my big head out the way. There we go. Hopefully the stand, I've been working with my little stand. It's been acting a little funky on me. But hopefully it'll act right today. I won't be leaning and all that good stuff. So, how's everybody doing today? Brother John, on behalf of River Lake Baptist Church, on behalf of the Lost Sheep Ministries, and I come to bring you a lesson today. If y'all been following me for the last, following this series I've been doing for the last few weeks, we've been looking on the life of Samson, and the title of the lesson is The Results of Sin. And today, we get to look at the final results of sin. And this is one of my favorite lessons I always did when I went to the jails. This is one of my favorite lessons to do. And the reason why, because you really get to see where you see sin at its inception, all the way from the beginning when it's the first inception of it, all the way down to the end of it, and what it does, you know what I'm saying, and its finality, you know what I'm saying, the final results of sin that you can see in life. And see, a lot of times, as I told y'all when we started these lessons, a lot of times, how you doing, Sister Rhonda? Glad you can make tonight. A lot of times that we continue to do the sins that we do because we can't see that. We know we can't see what's going on. Nikki, I'm glad you're here tonight as well. I know Anthony been here the last few weeks, so he'll chime in here in a minute or so. But again, a lot of things we do because we can't see the end. You know, and that's why I love this story of Samson, because you see where the sin first started. When y'all remember back in the first lesson when he first saw that foreign girl that he wasn't supposed to be messing with, and he started lusting after her. We saw how that started, and over the last 2 weeks, y'all saw what it's led to. Look how many people have been hurt, how many people have been killed, how many bad situations Samson has been into because of their sin. And then tonight we get to finally see like how it finally ends. We get to see how everything ends. So that's why I love this lesson, the life of Samson. That's why one of my favorite lessons to do, because we get to see sin from its inception when it first starts to how it finally ends. And that's why I've been asking y'all, praying that y'all will stay with me through all 3 weeks so you can see, because we saw, like I said, we saw when it first started, we saw kind of as it matured, and now we're going to see the end and what happens in the end when you choose to sin and do those things that you know you're not supposed to do. So, like I said, I normally wait a couple of minutes for people to get in, but I'm going to go ahead and jump into it because I do want this to be the finale, and it's a whole lot to cover in this last chapter. And what I'm going to do, the list that I have so far, we have 21 results of sin that I've shared with y'all so far. And I'm going to try my best because all of them are going to come up in tonight's lesson at some point or another. So every single one that we went over is going to come up at some point. So I'm going to try not to re-preach these, so to speak, but I do want to go through the list because they're all going to come up. And even when they come up in tonight's lesson, I'm just going to mention it. So if y'all watching the lesson and I make a reference to a former point that we made and you're like, what is he talking about? You're going to have to go back and watch the other videos if you haven't done so. You might be a little lost. But I'm just going to go through the list. Like I said, I'm just going to read through the list of the ones we got so far. So number one, we saw where he had the one of the results of sin was lust and the ability to appreciate the blessings that God has given you. You know, we're always looking for the greener grass on the other side. Number two, disobedience to God, your parents, and any authority figures. It makes you disobedient and you do what you want to do instead of what God wants you to do. Number three, you have a lack of wisdom and discernment. We saw how foolish Samson has been thus far in this story. Number four, it'll take you out of the will of God. When you sin in 9 times out of 10, you're doing something you want to do instead of what God wants you to do. And then often that's being out of the will of God. Number five, it wasn't a result of sin, but it's something that when you're sinning, you can see. And we're going to see that here tonight as well. And that is our faithlessness does not diminish God's faithfulness. You can see that when you're living a life of sin and the Lord still calls you to come and do his work. Number 6, it always leads to more sin. That's definitely going to come up again tonight. Number 7, it'll make your wants a priority over God's needs. In other words, selfishness, just to sum that statement up. Number 8, it defiles you in the eyes of God. And we talked about how even Jesus experienced that. That's why, he was asking God, why have you forsaken me, when he was on the cross? Number 9, it'll have you accepting the wrong people in your life and forsaking the right ones. That's a big one. That's going to come up again tonight as well. Number 10, pride. Your pride swell up. That's a result of sin. Number 11, it negatively affects everyone, not just you. Number 12, it makes you regress instead of progress. And remember, I made the statement, you're not winning when you're sinning. You regress. Sin pulls you backwards, not push you forward. Number 13, it'll make you a fool. That's going to come up again tonight as well. Number 14, it'll make you productive, but in the wrong reason, for the wrong reasons. We were talking about how he had caught the 300 foxtails, or what, the foxes, and put them all together. What up, Pat? Glad you can make tonight, man. I hope you're getting settled in your new place and everything. And I appreciate you being here for me, because I know you still got a whole lot of work to do. Number 15, it'll bring about financial difficulties. And then what I'm doing, just going back through the points, because like I said, every single one of these points that we've been through so far in the first 3 chapters is going to come up again. All of them going to come up tonight at some point, and as we go through this chapter. Number 16, it'll bring about financial difficulties. Number 16, it'll lead you into a life of turmoil and instability. We saw that where he had to go live in a cave. Number 17, others will have to bear the cost of your sins. Again, it affects everybody around you, and others a lot of time pay for the things that you're doing. Number 18, the loss of love and loved ones. We saw at one point where Samson's family turned their back on him because of what he was doing, because he was getting them in trouble. Number 19, it provides God's enemies the opportunity to despise and blaspheme him. That's going to come up again tonight. Number 20, it'll make you inconsistent in your relationship with the Lord. Because often, like I said, the sin is how you doing one thing where God wants you to do something else. So a lot of times we turn our back on God so we can go and indulge in that sin. And then number 21 from last week was it limits the time you could have used for God's work. So those were the 21 points that we've covered so far. I got about 10 more new ones tonight, but we got a lot of references back to the ones that we've already covered, because it's one of the results of sin. So it just keeps on. It's like a snowball. Like I told y'all, once you get to sinning, you just keep sinning, and it's like a snowball effect. You just keep on going, and it leads to more sin, and you end up doing more. So we're gonna see all these points that we've already covered so far come into effect, and see how this man's story, this man that's just hell-bound on sin, just stuck. His problem was just like most men. Women was his problem, and women too, they have men as their problem. But his problem was somebody of the other gender. He couldn't keep it in his pants, pretty much, and it's going to get him in a lot of trouble. But it's going to be a lot of people hurt behind his ability to have some self-control on himself. So that's what I like. So I just want to do that quick review, and I'm going to go ahead and pray and jump into it, because I really want to keep this. I want to keep this under an hour and a half, but it's so much here. It might go up to 2 hours. So I hope y'all already used the bathroom and all that. And if not, just take the phone there with you. Just don't put the camera on. You know what I'm saying? But I want to get it into an hour and a half, but I definitely want to finish this up tonight so we can move on to the next lesson. So I'm going to go ahead and pray and jump into it. Dear Lord and Heavenly Father, thank you so much for watching over us tonight. Thank you so much for keeping us all safe and giving us this opportunity to come here tonight and finish up this lesson, get to see the grand finale of what happens when you live that life of sin, Lord. There's so many of us, and of course we know Samson's sin is women, but there's other things out there that's doing the same thing that these women was doing for him. There's drugs, there's alcohol, partying, money, whatever. We all got some device that we do that keep us away from you, that keep us from following your will for our lives, and just put us on a path that we don't recognize how dangerous that path that we're on is. Until sometimes to some of us, thank God for me, you pulled me back off that path before it was too late. But as a majority of people, they don't get that opportunity. It's too late before they realize the path they was on was a dangerous one. So I pray that's the goal of this lesson, that helps people be able to see ahead of time before they get to the end of that path, before they get to the end, before they find out the end result of their sin, help them to turn back before they get to that end so they can give their life to you and do the work that you have for them to do. So I just pray you send your spirit down upon my heart and my mind tonight as I present this lesson, present this truth, and help bring out this truth to the people, Lord. And I pray you send your spirit down upon the hearts or the minds of those that's watching this lesson and help them realize the bigness of making that decision to step away from that sin instead of indulging in it, because at the end results is not something that works out for any of us, Lord. So I just pray you be with us tonight. Let your spirit as always guide this session and use me in a mighty way to do the work that you have for me to do. I love you and thank you for all you've done and given. In the Savior's prayer, your wonderful Son, Jesus' name, amen. So we're going to be, if you got your Bibles open, you follow along. We're going to be in Judges chapter 16. We're finishing up this life of Samson. I told y'all it was going to be about a 4-week lesson because it's so much here and there's so much good stuff here. It's not something that I wanted to rush through it. Even this, I'm going to rush through it, but I'm not going to get real detailed into it because the majority of the stuff that we've already discussed before. So the stuff that we've already discussed before, I'm just going to kind of mention it. Like I said, if you're watching this and this is the part 4. So if you're watching this and you ain't watched none of the other parts, you might be a little bit lost. Just go back and watch the other videos. And of course, I'm going to post this one on there. So you better go back and watch this one as well. But I pray that you've been keeping up with it. So you'll be able to get the bigness of what's being taught here tonight. So again, we're going to start over in Judges chapter 16. We're going to see the finality, the grand finale, so to speak, but we're going to see what happens in the end. Because like I told y'all in the beginning, 2 reasons why we do a majority of the stuff that we do, the bad stuff that we do. 1 is because we don't realize how much it affects those in the world around us. And 2, because we don't see the end result. We don't know what that road, that sin that we're doing, that road that we're on, we don't know where that road is going to end. So we just keep on going forward, not realizing that we're on the way to destruction. And that's exactly what's going to happen with Samson here tonight. So I'm going to be reading out Judges chapter 16. Of course, I'm reading out the New Living Translation. I got a couple of spots here tonight where I'm going to go to the King James Version just because the way they worded it is a little bit stronger, and I think it's a little bit more potent as far as what the word is telling us than the watered-down version of the New Living Translation. But I am a King James believer, and I read the New Living Translation because it's the Lost Sheep Ministry, and I want to make sure everybody understand the lesson that's being taught here tonight. So I'm start off in Samson Judges verse 16. The Lord tells us this. Chapter 16, verse 1. And the Lord tells us this. So, and this very first statement, matter of fact, in this very first statement, the very first line of this chapter is going to encompass about 12 of the points that we've already covered in this very first line. Because it says this. It said, one day, Samson went to the Philistine city of Gaza and spent the night with a prostitute. So what is he doing? So that accounts. So like a quick recap. That covers our very first point. Reference back to number 1, which is lust. Why is he with a prostitute? Obviously, you know what I'm saying. He was lusting. He saw this prostitute he wanted. He was lusting, and he had to get his needs taken care of or whatnot. So we already see that. That's number 1. Number 2, disobedient. Again, he was a Nazarite. He was basically a preacher. He's supposed to keep himself pure, and he's sitting here with a prostitute, with a immoral woman, which defiles him. Which is that was number 8. So that defiles him. Not to mention, he knows he's not supposed to be with that prostitute because everybody in Israel, not him especially, but everybody in Israel, all the Israelites know you're not supposed to be with any foreigners. That was one of the rules that God gave them when they came out of the land of Egypt. So there's the disobedience. You got the lack of wisdom. Every situation he's been in so far has been because he was messing with the wrong woman. And yet, where do we see him at? Once again, messing with the wrong woman. So we got the lack of wisdom there. He's out of the will of God. You know what I'm saying? Again, God said Israelites shouldn't be with anybody of a foreign nation. And where's he at? He's there with this Philistine prostitute. So again, he's out of the will of God. Number 6, it leads to more sins. What is he doing? He's fornicating right now with a prostitute. So he's like I said. So number 6 leads to more sin. He's sinning even more. Number 7, selfishness. You know what I'm saying? Instead of him keeping himself clean and doing the things that God wants him to do, being the leader that God made him out to be, he's there trying to satisfy his own needs. So once again, we see reference back to number 7, selfishness. Number 8, he's defiled because he's having sex. He's having sex which defiles him, and he's with a prostitute, which really defiles him. Number 9, reference back to number 9. He's around the wrong people. So once again, he's in the wrong situation with the wrong people. That's what sin will do for you. Number 12, there's a regression instead of progression. Because right now we see, you remember the other women he was hooking up with, at least he was actually trying to marry them. They might have been the wrong people to marry, but he was at least trying to marry them. Where in this situation, he just, forget it, I'm just going to hook up with this prostitute. You see what I'm saying? So that's another thing that sin does. It'll make you regress instead of progress. Because at least in the beginning, again, he was choosing the wrong women that he was trying to marry, but he was at least trying to get married, where now he just shacked up with some prostitute, some foreign prostitute, which he's not supposed to be with. So that's another result of sin. Number 15, financial difficulty. I don't know how many, I was thinking about, I don't know how many shekels the nookie cost back then. I don't know if it's like today. You know, today is good, it's $40. So I don't know how many shekels, it was 40 shekels back in the day, but I mean, you beat another prostitute, you're going to end up being broke. There's a lot of dudes that go broke behind going to strip clubs and prostituting and things like that. And a lot of guys have lost money because they hooked over a prostitute and you know, they was married or whatever and they got found out. So, you know, financial difficulty, that's there. So that's another one that we had covered so far. Number 20, he's inconsistent with his relationship with the Lord because he can't be serving the Lord if he's laying up with prostitutes. You know what I'm saying? He's not serving the Lord if he's laying over prostitute. If you serving the Lord, you're not going to even be able to, your spirit won't even allow you to do something as vile as hooking up with a prostitute. So we know he has an inconsistent relationship with the Lord. And then number 21, it limits the time that he could be working for the Lord. Because while he's there laying up with their prostitute, he could be out there somewhere preaching or leading Israel out of this oppression that they in. So again, in that one very first statement of 16, we see that he covered 12 of the results of sin that I told you that we've covered over the last 2 weeks. 12 of them was covered in that very first statement. So it shows you where Samson is at in his life. Now, y'all remember the first one, the first chapter we really got into, I think it was 14. He was still a young male. And then toward 15, he was young, toward the mature male. And now this is him as basically what would be considered a grown man. He's a grown man by this time, but look where he's at. You know, again, he's regressed because if he's lived this life of sin, he was a Nazarite. You know, if anybody was supposed to stay away from fornication, if anybody was supposed, and I knew you were going to pop up in there somewhere. I'm glad you're here, man. Appreciate you being here. So again, if anybody was supposed to stay away from fornication and foreign women, it would be him. He was supposed to be one to do that. But look where he's at. So it shows you that he's regressed. So all these is just from the very first statement of this chapter. And this is just the beginning. You know what I'm saying? So then he says this. So it says one day he went to Philistine city of Gaza and spent the night there with a prostitute. Word soon spread that Samson was there. So the men of Gaza gathered together and waited all night at the city gates. They kept quiet during the night, saying to themselves, when the light of morning comes, we will kill him. So our first new point going to be number 22. Number 22 is this. Another result of sin. I'm sorry, I missed it earlier. Matter of fact, I'm sorry. One day Samson went to the Philistine city of Gaza and spent the night with a prostitute. So it was all those references, but it was also point number 22. You will have number 22 result of sin is you will have a rebellious heart. That's one of the results of sin. You're going to rebel against God. Because like I said, you can't serve God and sin at the same time. It's not necessarily that you're perfect. You know what I'm saying? I've told y'all before, I've put my flaws out there to you. I'm not perfect by any means, but there is a certain effort in my life that I make to stay away from stuff I know I'm supposed to stay away from. You know what I'm saying? I'm married. I know I'm supposed to stay away from other women, so I stay away from other women. You don't see me sliding up in other women's inboxes and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? Because I know where my head is, my home is at. You know what I'm saying? There were certain things I don't go over hang around drug dealers and people that smoke weed because I know I like to smoke weed. So if I know I'm gonna go to a situation, there's gonna be some weed smokers there. If I can, I avoid that situation altogether. You see what I'm saying? There's a certain amount of effort that I put in to make sure that I stay on God's path and I make sure that I do things that I'm supposed to do. But when you're sinning, when you're out there and you give it into the flesh, you're going to have a rebellious heart because you're going to do, when you feed your flesh, you're going to do what you want to do instead of what your spirit wants you to do. Because every single time you feed that flesh, your spirit is telling you, hey, don't do that. Don't go there. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the things I always talk to the guys when I talk to them in jail. And now I'm doing some drug counseling at one of the rehab centers up here. I don't know, and I always ask the guys, you know what I'm saying? I mean, how many times, you know what I'm saying, before you got caught and ended up in this situation, how many times did you have that something tell you not to do that or not to go there? And every single one of them admitted, and I admit myself, man, a million times. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, the night when it happened, I knew I wasn't supposed to do it. Matter of fact, before I left the house, something told me not to go or not to do that thing. You know what I'm saying? But what happened was you was fighting against that rebellious heart. You had been feeding your flesh for so long that when that flesh, you know what I'm saying, that's what you got to do. You got to avoid the situation. And again, it's not necessarily as hard. It's all about what you want to do. You see what I'm saying? If one of the things one concept I've taught y'all before is, you know what I'm saying, to be able to do God's work and stay faithful to God's work, you have to know yourself. You have to know yourself. You got to know that, hey, if I get in this situation, I know what's going to happen. This is going to end bad. You know what I'm saying? You got to know that. So you got to just avoid that situation. That's the best way to stay away from sin. Because you might think you're strong enough and have enough self-control to like, oh, man, I can go around. It ain't going to bother me. And you know what I'm saying? And then that's how a lot of people slip up. You see what I'm saying? That's how a lot of people slip up. So the best way to stay away from sin, you just got to avoid the situation altogether. But a rebellious heart is going to tell you, man, let's don't do that. We'll be all right. You know, so you can handle like, you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people, when I talk to people, and again, I talk to, you know, I'm doing drug counseling. I talk to them like, you know, and there's a lot of relatively young guys. So, and the drugs they're messing with is stuff that's been around. Like heroin has really been making it like a climb. You know, it was for a while it was meth, it was real bad in the pills. But most of the people I come across now is heroin. And of course, you know, heroin been around for the longest. You know what I'm saying? Heroin and coke been around, you know what I'm saying? Heroin and coke been around for forever. And, you know what I'm saying? So I was asking like, man, how did, you know, you're young, you know what I'm saying? The dude I'm dealing with now, like 20-something years old. I'm like, man, you young. So you've seen the damage that this done to other people. How did it even come about? How do you even get in that situation where you tried this stuff? And everybody, every single one of them like, man, I thought I could control it. You know what I'm saying? I thought I was strong enough to control it. You know what I'm saying? I said, not me. You see what I'm saying? That's what happened with David when he saw Bathsheba taking that bath and he indulged. You know what I'm saying? Not me. I wouldn't do that. You know what I'm saying? I'm a man after God's own heart. But we all have weaknesses and the devil knows that. And that's why the best way to avoid sin is to just avoid the situation altogether. If you know you're going to end up in a bad situation, then you got to avoid that situation altogether. I remember a couple of times, and I don't want to snitch on myself because sometimes my wife watches the video, but I was in situations and I was like, man, if I don't get out of this situation, it's going to be bad. And I had to pray to God to take me out of a certain situation so I wouldn't do nothing I wasn't supposed to do because I was being, you know, tempted, like highly tempted. You know what I'm saying? I had to pray myself out of this situation. So it's all about what you really want to do. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't really want to give your heart to God, or you want to give it into that sin, you're going to always have a rebellious heart, and you're going to always be placed you're not supposed to be, doing things you're not supposed to be doing. And that's what's going on with Samson. You know what I'm saying? God, he was dedicated to God from birth as a Nazarite. And I told y'all what a Nazarite is. If y'all don't remember from the first video, that's like basically a preacher to the 10th power. Like, you know what I'm saying? He's almost supposed to be perfect. You know, he had to follow every rule to the letter because if he did any little thing outside the rule, it defiled him. And he was dedicated to God. He couldn't be defiled. He was supposed to live. He was supposed to live the kind of life basically that Jesus lived. You know what I'm saying? A spotless, clean life, kept himself away from being defiled by any means necessary. You know what I'm saying? That's what he's supposed to do. But as we saw, he didn't do that. You know what I'm saying? He was hooking up. He's right here laying with a prostitute. He's killed people. He's robbed dudes. You know what I'm saying? Lusting a couple of times. And he's done caused all kind of financial damage. He's done all kinds of things outside of what he's supposed to be doing. Why? Because he had a rebellious heart. Because he's given into his sin. And see, that's what sin does. Sin gives you the rebellious heart. Because again, what is sin? Sin is when you do something you know you're not supposed to be doing. You know what I'm saying? Or you don't do something you know you're supposed to be doing. And that's exactly what Samson's doing. What he's supposed to be doing, he's supposed to be leading Israel out of this oppression. He's supposed to be a military leader and gathering the nation of Israel together to lead them out of this oppression from under these they're occupied right now by the Philistine. So he was supposed to be the leader to lead them out, but instead he's indulging in all these women. So he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing, and then he's doing stuff he's not supposed to be doing because he's indulging in all these women. That's what sin is. So when you give into that sin, you're going to have a rebellious heart, because sin always goes against what God wants you to do. That's why it's sin. You're somewhere doing something you're not supposed to be doing, or you're not doing something God wants you to do. And we see that with Samson. He had a rebellious heart. This is, this is the third situation that he's been in where he's with a woman and something bad is going to almost happen, and yet he still haven't learned. Because that's a result of sin. He has the rebellious heart. He's just going to continue to do what he want to do instead of doing what God wants him to do. And watch what's going to happen. That's what goes to the next point. Because it says, word soon spread that Samson was there. So the men of Gaza gathered together and waited all night at the city gates. They kept quiet during the night, saying to themselves, when the light of day, the light of morning comes, we will kill him. So number 23 is this. This is a new point. There's another result of sin. There's a new result of sin that we haven't covered yet. Number 23, this. Sin, when you give in to sin, it puts you in harm's way. It puts you in harm's way. So number 23, the number 23rd result of sin is it puts you in harm's way. You know what I'm saying? Have you ever noticed? Now think back on y'all lives. And I want all y'all, and you know what I'm saying? Just think back. I'm not just saying this stuff. Just really think back and be honest with yourself. How many times have something bad happened to you, and it happened because you were somewhere you weren't supposed to be, or doing something you weren't supposed to be doing? Just be honest with yourself. Just about every time I got in trouble, I was somewhere I wasn't supposed to be, doing something I wasn't supposed to do. And if y'all remember, you know what I'm saying, he's laying up here with this prostitute. So where's he at? Then he's hooking up with a prostitute, which is something he's not supposed to be doing, and he's somewhere he's not supposed to be. You see what I'm saying? And y'all remember back in chapter, I believe chapter 14, when he was up there around the vineyard, what happened? He got attacked by the lion. You see what I'm saying? He's laying here with the prostitutes. So what's happening? These men gathered up to try to kill him. They trying to, you know what I'm saying? They trying to jump him, trying to kill him. See, he's in these situations because he's doing things he's not supposed to be doing. And that's what you got to understand, people. Like, you know what I'm saying? When God in the Bible, when he says, don't do this, don't do that, don't go there, he's telling you that for a reason, because he's trying to keep you out of harm's way. He's not trying, and y'all heard me say this before, he's not trying to diminish our fun. He's not trying to make us be down here all bored and not having a good time. He wants us to enjoy this earth. You know what I'm saying? He wants us to enjoy this earth, but you got to understand, he's telling us not to do these things because he knows what path this put us on. He knows that this put us on a path that's going to put us in harm's way. And Samson couldn't see that. Because again, the devil, when it says the devil walks about as a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour, when it is seeking, what is he doing? He's looking for whom he may devour. How did he know that he can devour you? Because he's looking for a wheat. He's looking for a chick in your armor. And see, when you out of the will of God, which is where you are, when you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing, then guess what? You're in his territory. You know what I'm saying? He has the right to touch you. Because remember, Samson wasn't supposed to be around vineyards or grapes or anything. But yet when he was around the grapes, what happened? He got attacked by the lion. You see what I'm saying? Right now, he's not supposed to be hooking up with this prostitute. He's not supposed to be with women at all, let alone a prostitute. You know what I'm saying? He's not supposed to be with anyone outside of marriage, let alone a prostitute. And because he's here with this prostitute, what's happening? He got these men gathered. They're here trying to, they gathered up and they trying to kill him. They're going to get him. But, you know what I'm saying? But it says, the next verse it says, but Samson stayed in bed only until midnight. You know what I'm saying? But Samson stayed in bed only until midnight. So number 24 is this. Another result of sin is it takes away your peace. Why did he only stay in bed till midnight? Most likely he couldn't sleep. He knew he wasn't doing something he knew he was doing something he wasn't supposed to do. He couldn't sleep. You know what I'm saying? This is something I always tell my boys, because kids, you always give kids rules and you hope they follow the rules whether you're around or not. But kids, they always try to be sneaky. You know what I'm saying? I never thought I had kids to sneak out the house, but my boys, they snuck out the house when they was living with me. They don't live with me no more, so I ain't got to worry about it. But, they snuck out the house. They snuck the parties and stuff like that, And I always tell my kids, when I give you a rule and you do something you're not supposed to do, whether I actually see you or catch you or not, something you got to realize, you never get away with anything. None of us never gets away with anything. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, the police might not have caught you or your dad and mom might not have caught you, but you never get away with anything because God sees and your conscience sees. And a lot of times your conscience messes with you. You know what I'm saying? If you know and I know drug dealers, you know what I'm saying? I know drug dealers, I know drug addicts and people like that. And if you notice, and I don't know how many of y'all know have ever been around, but most of them don't sleep good at night. You know what I'm saying? Most of them don't sleep good at night. You know why? Because they're doing stuff that they're not supposed to be doing. So most of them don't sleep good at night. You see what I'm saying? So you got to understand, something. You know, never get away with anything. You never get away with anything. God, once you when you do sin, I remember I had this one guy that I met. It was a really cool, neat story. He was my mom's boyfriend when I was younger. You know, and he went off in like special forces. You know, went to the army. I don't know what branch it was in, but he was like special forces. And we was talking, and of course he couldn't give me details, and I'm not gonna say his name because I don't want government to look for me. But basically, it was one of them situations where he's like, "Hey, I can't talk. You know what I'm saying? I can't talk about it, kind of thing." But he did a lot of stuff that he wasn't supposed to, and from what I gathered what I could gather from the conversation, he killed some people. You know, I think he was like an assassin or something. And I remember talking to him, like we went, we went to the store. We was at a picnic, and we had ran out of something. We went to grab something, and me and him went. Me and him went, and we got to talking, and I was asking about his relationship with God and things like that. And he was telling me, like, man, because we went to pick him up. I went to pick him and my mom up, and like it was hard to get him up, and we actually ended up being late to the picnic because it took like an hour or two to get him up and get him dressed or whatever. And I'm like, man, you know, we basically got to talking. He's like, man, my bad about that. He's like, man, he said the only way I can sleep at night is if I down like a whole whatever the big balls are. I'm not a drinker, so filth, but the big bottle of liquor. He said I have to drown, kill one of those at night to get to sleep. He said because I can still see the faces of people at home when I was in the war and everything, and things of that nature. He said it's like they haunt me. You know what I'm saying? He said the only way I can sleep is if I get drunk, and I basically get drunk enough to pass out. He said, that's the only way I can get sleep. See, he didn't have no peace in his life. Because what does the Bible say? What the Bible say that when God comes to your life, you have that peace that passes all understanding. But when you got sin in your life and when you give it into sin, you don't have that peace. That's why it's so hard to sleep. You know what I'm saying? If I find sometimes I have situations where for whatever reason I'll be good in time, but I can't sleep. And I always, whenever I have that happen, I go 2, 3 days, I just don't sleep good. And I was ask God, like, man, if it's something not doing, like, or something I'm done that I know I ain't supposed to do. I mean, I don't think of it. I can't think of anything, but show it to me. Like, why am I not getting sleep? You know what I'm saying? Why am I not getting having any peace at night? Why am I having all these crazy dreams to where I'm waking up every couple of hours instead of my normal sleep schedule? 'Cause I used to wake up about 4 hours into my sleep, use the restroom, and then I go back to bed. But it usually like once every, if I'm having a good night's sleep, if I get an 8 hour sleep, I wake up like every 3.5, 4 hours. So, but I have nights where I wake up like an hour and a half after I went to sleep and wake right back up. And when that happens, I always pray to God, Lord, am I doing something? Is it something that I haven't done that I'm supposed to do, or something I need to do, or what? Let me know. Show me. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't have peace because I'm not able to sleep. And see, Samson didn't have no rest. That's why he only got up at midnight. They expect, oh man, he probably drinking. He probably with the prostitute drinking, which he's not supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? So they expected him to be in the bed all night because he's hooked up his prostitute, got drunk and liquored up and looked up his prostitute. But they said he only slept at midnight because he didn't have no peace. And see, that's what you don't realize. That's what sin does. It robs you of that peace. And that's something I didn't realize until, again, I gave my heart all the way to God. And when I gave my heart all the way to God, I got that peace. That's when I finally started sleeping at night. Before I gave my heart to God, I really did sleep. I would nap. You know what I'm saying? I would be up and down. And I just thought, oh, this is just how sleep was supposed to be. I just thought it was me. This is just how my sleep schedule was. But what it was, I didn't really have peace. So I couldn't get rest because I couldn't have peace because my spirit wouldn't allow me to rest. So again, you might not get caught by the police, you might not get caught by your parents or whatever authority figure over your life, but I'm telling you, you don't get rid of it. I mean, you don't get away with it. You lose your peace when you're not doing God's work. You know what I'm saying? When you're doing things that you're not supposed to be doing, you lose peace in your life. That's why a lot of people lives are so chaotic and they don't get it. They don't understand why am I always having problems? Why is it always seem like when it rains it pours? Why is all these things going on? Is, you know what I'm saying? And I told y'all before, I felt like I was cursed at one point. It felt like I get 2 steps ahead, push 5 steps back. You know what I'm saying? I always felt like I was cursed at one point, and I always seemed that if it can go wrong, it went wrong in my life, and that's because I wasn't living the way I was supposed to. I didn't have that peace of God in my life. And Samson, did you can see he didn't have that peace neither because he knows he hasn't been living his life up to par. He hasn't been doing the things that God has wanted him to do, and that's why he didn't stay in bed all night because he didn't have the peace. He couldn't get a good sleep because his conscience, his spirit was bothering him. He knew he wasn't doing. He was doing stuff he wasn't supposed to do, but again, number 22, what did he have? He had that rebellious heart. He had the rebellious heart, and because he had that rebellious heart, he didn't have peace. And that's what sin does. It takes away the peace in your life. It takes away that peace that God want to give us. You know, this life that we live, the chaos that we go through, all this craziness that's going on in the world right now. I've been stuck. I ain't even been that good on Facebook today because everybody talking about how Will Smith slapped Chris Rock last night on the Oscars. That's all my whole Facebook. That's everybody talking about. And I don't want to hear that mess. You know what I'm saying? That's ignorant stuff, but that's the kind of stuff we feed off of. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of stuff we talk about. That's the kind of stuff that goes viral and get talked about. But you never hear people talking about God's work like that. You never hear people. I never get on Facebook and see, oh man, such and such saved, led, 200 people in the Lord last night. Praise God. You never see stuff like that. You don't see no memes about stuff like that. Most of the stuff you see about church or God is negative if you see it on Facebook or something like that. And then we wonder why our life is so chaotic, why so much drama in our life, why we going through the things we're going through, why we worried about this war in Ukraine and the food going up and all these things. It's because we don't have peace, because we are a nation of sin. We are a godless nation. And if you think anything less than that, then you are deceived. We are a God. We have become a godless nation. Yes, there are still some faithful ones that serve. Don't get me wrong, but a majority is we're a godless nation. Now, I think this is the first year, the last year they did a survey, and for the first time in the history of this nation, less than 50% of the people go to church anymore. We have become a godless nation, and that's why there's no peace. That's why you see the racism thing becoming an issue again, and that's why you see the separation between brothers and sisters. I mean, you even got churches and stuff fighting. You know what I'm saying? That's how far away from God that we've become, we've gotten because we've become a godless nation. We've given in to sin. You can't come on the TV. You can't even watch cartoons these days without seeing sin. That's how bad it's gotten. You know what I'm saying? They already programming the kids to accept sin at a young age. You can't do it. You know what I'm saying? We become a godless nation and we've given in to sin, and that's why we don't have no peace. That's why there's so many wars and rumors of wars, because we no longer have peace. That's why Samson couldn't sleep all night, because he didn't have no peace. Because he's giving in to his sin and he's doing things he's not supposed to be doing, and he's the place he's not supposed to be. But then watch what happened. So it says, he only stepped in the middle of the night. So it said, then he got up, took hold of the city gates with his 2 posts and lifted them, bar and all, right up the ground. He put them on his shoulders and carried them all the way to the top of the hill across from Hebron. So this is actually going to be a reference to 2 we've already covered, which is number 10 and number 14. And number 10, we see this both here. We see pride, which was number 10, we see pride, and number 14, we see him being productive, but for the wrong reasons. You see what I'm saying? Because pride, why do I say pride? Because look what it said. He said he took him out of the ground poster wall and walked all the way up a hill with him. Why was that necessary? Because y'all gotta understand something, because it's talking about the city gates. These wasn't just regular gates like what we have today. These ain't just the little flimsy picket fence gates or the little light wire gates. These gates were meant to withstand battle. These gates were built to keep out armies. You know what I'm saying? These gates were built to keep battering rams, keep the other armies from battering them down. So I mean, it ain't like these were just a couple of pieces of planks of wood and a couple of nails. This was steel. You know what I'm saying? Most of these gates were covered in steel. Most of these gates were like basically whole trees that was put together. So this wasn't light. These are tons that he was lifting up. And what did he do? He took them up out the ground and threw them on the shoulder and walked up the hill. Why? Because he's showing off. He didn't got pride for now. See, I told this toward the end of his life. This is when he's an older man. But this is right before the end of his life. So he's gotten older, and the Lord has been with him all this time, and he's been showing him the strength, giving him the strength he's had. So now he's showing off. So now his pride is swelled up. You see what I'm saying? And pride is a result of sin. You know, I talked to y'all before. Why did the devil get kicked out of heaven? Because he had an eye problem. He said, I'm going to be like the Most High. You know, so I'm going to put my throne above God. You read over there in Isaiah, I believe it's Isaiah 14. You know what I'm saying? He had pride. His pride had swelled up, and it forced him to try to take on God. And we know how that ended. You know what I'm saying? So Samson's pride is swelled up, and that's why he's doing the things that he's doing now. Because again, you notice, again, the girls, he was trying to hook up the wrong girls, but at least he's trying to get married. But now he's just flat out sinning. He's hooking up with prostitutes. You know why? Because that pride is swelled up. You know what I'm saying? That pride that got into his heart, and he feels he's big and bad. He got the spirit of God on him. He can do whatever he want to do. You know what I'm saying? And that's not the case. You know what I'm saying? So then again, like I said, number 14, reference back to number 14, he's productive for the wrong reason. He took those big, tons of metal, steel and wood, and walked up the hill. But for what? For what? To show off. You see what I'm saying? He's showing off. It ain't like those people needed that gate moved to another position or whatever. He did that to show off. So he's being productive. You know, it's nice that you can carry these tons up a hill, but what is that doing? It's not doing nothing. It's just you showing off. It's like, look how strong I am kind of thing. So again, that's another result of sin. So you got these two references. His pride swelled up, and again, he's being productive, but for the wrong reason. So now, what happens? He's still on this path. We see he hasn't learned his lesson yet, even though all this stuff he's been through. At this point, he's killed over thousands of people. He's robbed dudes. He's lying constantly. He's constantly hooking up with women he's not supposed to. So he's just on this destructive path of just giving into his sin and living his life the way he want to live it instead of doing what he's supposed to do. So before I start this, so now we're gonna get in. This is the famous part of the life of Samson that just about everybody knows. If you're even familiar with the Bible at all, this is Samson Delilah. But before I always get into this, I always like to ask, especially when I do this lesson in jail, I always like to ask people before we get started, how many of y'all have been in trouble before? By a show of hands. And y'all can answer if you want to, or just, answer to yourself. How many have been in trouble before? By a show of hands. My hand is up. Way up. You know what I'm saying? Now, and then I always like to ask, okay, how many of y'all have been in trouble before, got in trouble for doing the exact same thing you got in trouble for before? You know what I'm saying? Like most of the time when I'm in the jail, I ask the guys, you know what I'm saying, how many have been locked up before? And they raise their hand. And I ask them, like, how many of y'all are locked up right now for the exact same thing? And the majority of them raise their hand again. You know what I'm saying? But for y'all, if y'all ain't never been locked up, how many times have you been in trouble before, and have you gotten in trouble for doing the same thing at least more than once? You know what I'm saying? And the majority of us, is not all of us, is going to be able to say, that's me. You know what I'm saying? So keep that in mind as we go through here. Because when you think about it, like, how dumb can I be? But just keep that in mind as we go through there and we read here and we look at this guy, Samson. Because it's always looking easier to look at somebody else and be like, man, that guy's dumb. But at the same time, we do the same thing. So we see over here where he meets Delilah. So on verse 4 says, so later Samson fell in love. So again, this is later. This is toward the end of his life. So now he's definitely a mature man, but still ain't learned. He's mature as far as manhood goes, but he still ain't learned. He's still foolish. So it says, later Samson fell in love with a woman named Delilah who lived in the valley of Sorah. So once again, that statement, you know what I'm saying, got to go back to our reference list. So he's this girl, this is a Philistine girl. So once again, he's lusting, which was number 1. Once again, he's being disobedient, which was number 2. Once again, he has a lack of wisdom, which was number 3. Because obviously he should have learned his lesson by now, messing with these foreign women, but apparently he's still having. Number 4, once again, he's out of the will of God. Number 6, once again, he's just doing more sins. Number 7, once again, it's the selfishness. If he hook up with this girl, he's gonna defile himself. Which is number 8. Number 9, being around the wrong people. Once again, and then number 20, inconsistent with the Lord. And then number 21, limits the time that he can work for the Lord. So once again, it goes all the way back to that list from that statement there. He went and fell in love with this girl. He's been having problems. This all started because he was trying to hook up and marry a foreign woman, but yet he's still hanging with these foreign women because that was his sin. His sin was women, foreign women, which he wasn't supposed to be with. So then it says he fell in love with Delilah, who lived in the valley of Sorek. The leaders of the Philistines went to her and said, find out from Samson what makes him so strong and how he can be overpowered and tied up securely. So that's going to be our number 25. Our 25 result of sin is what were they asking for? Where does his power come from? So number 25 is this. This is something that happens when you come to give in to sin. Number 25 is the 24th result of sin is you lose the power to do the work. You lose the power to do the work. Right now, he's able to do the work because he still got the power of God on him. And see, and something else you got to understand too. When y'all listen to the story, we listen to Samson, and we listen to all these mighty things he did and how strong he was. We always, and I know even before, before my pastor kind of, pointed this out to me, we always imagine Samson as some guy, probably like me, some big, strong guy. Not that I'm strong, but just a big guy with muscles popping out his neck. You know what I'm saying? Probably taller than me, but you know what I'm saying? About my size and my build or whatnot, and just got muscles popping out everywhere. We always imagine him like that. But in reality, most likely, Samson was a little dude. Samson was probably a skinny dude. I'd be surprised he weighed more than a buck 50. You know what I'm saying? 150 pounds. He wasn't no big muscular dude. And whenever you see movies, they always portray him like some big muscular dude. So we get that in our mind. But if that was the case, then the Philistines wouldn't be trying to figure out where his strength come from. Because they'd be like, oh man, that dude just stay in the gym all the time. You know what I'm saying? But they knew that the strength that he has, and the reason why he's able to do those things, because there's something else there. This is not natural. You know what I'm saying? They didn't know what it was because, of course, they didn't believe in God, but they knew this wasn't just some normal man. This dude is doing, that's not normal. There's something else there, and we need to find out. So that's why they went to her and told her, find out from Samson what makes him so strong. Because, again, if he just had muscles everywhere, they just think, oh, he just stay in the gym all the time. That's why he's so strong. But they couldn't figure out, how is this little scrawny 150-pound dude able to throw thousands of 2-3 ton gates up on his shoulders and just walk off with them like they're nothing? How is this 150-pound dude able to use a jawbone and kill over 1,000 soldiers that got on armor and shields and swords and all this stuff, and all he had was a donkey's jawbone? How is this even possible? It don't make sense. What is going on here? Why? Because that's what God do. He takes something small, somebody small and insignificant, and make them something big. And that's what happened with Samson. So when y'all read the story of Samson from now on, when you read the story of Samson, don't imagine him some big Hulk-looking dude. No, he was probably a little scrawny, 150-pound dude, but yet when the Spirit of God came over him, he had the power to do the work. But see, when you give it to sin, instead of giving it to the will of God, you lose the power to do that work. And that's what's going to end up happening to him, because instead of turning away, and we're going to see here as we go through this, he's going to have several opportunities to turn back and get back on the right path and get doing what God wants him to do. But he's going to be so hell-bent on just staying in that sin that he's going to be blind to the fact that he was on the path of danger. And that's what's going to end up happening to him, because he's blind to that fact. We talked about that. That's one of the results of sin. You're blind to the fact of the danger that you really truly in. So that's why they came to her and told her, find out, why is this dude so strong? This ain't right. This ain't natural. This dude weighs 150 pounds. There's no way he should be doing the things that he's doing. There's something else there. And of course, we know that it was the power of God, but they didn't know that, because they gods didn't have their power. They believed in idols. So they've never seen that kind of power before, and they didn't realize that they was in the presence, and they was seeing the actions of a man of God. Because whether we like Samson or not, we see this dude was hard-headed. He's definitely a rebel, but he was still a man of God. And they didn't understand that. So, and I'm pretty sure they didn't understand that because of the way he was living. They probably didn't believe that he was truly a man of God. Because we see from the story, the hooking up with prostitutes, killing people, robbing people, he definitely wasn't living like one. But you know what I'm saying? But for whatever reason, God was with him, and he allowed him to do their work. But when you keep on that path, of sin, eventually God will get tired of that. He'll get tired of you playing with him, and you will lose that power to do the work that he has for you to do. And that's what they were trying to find out, where his power comes from. We want to take that power away from him. Do us a favor, find out where that power will come from. So they told him, said, find out from Samson what makes him so strong, and how he can be overpowered. And the Lord said they take his power from him and tied up securely. Then each of us will give you 1,100 pieces of silver. So Delilah said to Samson, please tell me what makes you so strong, and what it would take for you what it would take to tie you up securely. So once again, we're going to go back to two more references. There's a reference to number 7, which was selfishness. She didn't care about him. This is supposed to be, you know what I'm saying? It said he was in love with her. Now, it don't really tell how much time they spent together, but you can tell from this conversation and what's going on that it was some significant amount of time that they spent together for the Philistine to notice, like, hey, he really has an interest for this girl. You know what I'm saying? And he had to spend some time with him for them to notice that. So they went to her and like, hey, see, we noticed that he's smitten with you. He definitely has some love for you. See if you can get him to tell your secret. So he spent a significant amount of time with that girl, but she didn't care about him. There's selfishness again. You know what I'm saying? Her priority was just getting his money. You know what I'm saying? Then also we see a reference back to number 9. He's around the wrong people. You know what I'm saying? He says again, he was in love with this girl. You know what I'm saying? He was in love with her, but obviously she didn't love him back. She didn't reciprocate that love because she wasn't for him. Because the first thing she did, as soon as they came and offered her some money to betray him, what did she do? She betrayed him. She went and started trying to betray him. I mean, she don't get him eventually, but she went and tried to betray him. You see what I'm saying? So he was around again. Number 9 was you give your time and effort to the wrong people. You accept the wrong people and reject the right ones. And see, he rejected all the women from Israel, which is the nation that the ones that he's supposed to be trying to marry. He rejected them, but he accepted this Philistine woman. So that's another result of sin. It'll make you reject the wrong people, the right people, and accept the wrong people. So obviously this girl is not for him, because as soon as these people came to give her a little bit of change to betray him, that's what she did. So then Samson replied, watch what he do. So Samson replied in verse 7, it says, so Samson replied, if I'm tied up with 7 new bowstrings that have not yet been dried, I will be as weak as anyone else. So what did he just do? He just lied. He just lied. And of course, he's playing with her, but yet he's still lying. So what was the number 6? Number 6 was sin always leads to more sin. You know what I'm saying? When you sin, it just compiles. You never sin and sin, but like, all right, man, that's too much, let's back down. No, the more you sin, the more sin wants you to sin. Kind of thing. One sin always leads to another sin. You're never gonna like I told y'all before we first started, it always snowballs. It's always gonna lead to another sin. So she just asked him something and he lied to her. Now, of course, we know that he's kind of playing a game, but it don't matter. A lie is a lie. You know what I'm saying? So then in the next verse, it says in verse 8, says, so he told her this. She came to him and said, hey, how can you be tied up? Again, she's doing what the Philistines want her to do. Samson replied, if I'm tied up with 7 new bowstrings that have not yet been dried, I will be as weak as anyone else. So in verse 8, it says, so the Philistine leaders brought Delilah 7 new bowstrings, and she tied Samson up with them. She had hidden some men in one of the rooms of her house, and she cried out, Samson, the Philistines have come to capture you. So get there, read that, get that. It says, so she tied him up, which means he had to be asleep, you know what I'm saying, for her to be able to tie him up. So it shows you how foolish he was to even be trusting this woman. He said he had to be asleep. And she hid some men in one of the rooms of her house. So he's sitting there asleep, and she got dudes in the house waiting to jump him. So number 26 is this. This is the number 26, and I think it's number 25 as far as the result of sin. Number 26 is this. This is another result of sin. Sin sets you up for failure. It sets you up for failure. Again, you're not winning when you sin it. You know, sin sets you up for failure. You may feel like you're winning. When you out there sinning, you know what I'm saying, selling drugs, and I always like to go back to selling drugs because it's the most applicable one. You know what I'm saying? When you selling drugs in the beginning, it's great. You're going to have all the money you want. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have all the clout you want. You're going to have the girl. You're going to be able to get the girls you want. You might have the clothes you want. I mean, it's going to give you everything that you ever wanted when you're out there selling that dope or whatever it is you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Hustling, robbing, whatever. In the beginning, it's always good. But I've told my son, you know what I'm saying? Like my kids, they know they've heard my testimony before. So they know, you know what I'm saying, I hustle for a little while. And you know, and I wasn't doing it, I was doing it out of necessity. A lot of these guys these days, they do it just because they think it's cool, you know, getting them proud. When I was doing it, it was out of necessity. But something I told my kids, the one thing I learned from it, I said, yes, I was able to provide for y'all in the beginning. You know what I'm saying? I was able to do for y'all in the beginning, you know, feed y'all in the beginning. I said, but something I learned about the game. When you get in the game, what up, Ron? I'm glad you able to make it in tonight, bro. I'm glad you're here. I appreciate you being here. But something I told him, I said, in the beginning, sin always gonna give you what you want. But the thing is, you gotta understand, in the end, it always takes more than it gives. The game never loses. You know what I'm saying? The game never loses. I don't care how slick you think you are. I don't care how smart you think you are. I don't care how well he did this, so I'm gonna do this. And no, you're gonna lose. You're playing a losing game. Whatever you're doing to come up is something you're not supposed to do, it is not gonna end good for you. I don't care. Like I said, and you might not end good. It might end good for you in this world. You might make it through in this world, but you got to understand, you got to go through a door called death and stand before God and give an account for everything that you've done. It says every word that you ever uttered out of your mouth. So even if you just joking, like Samson is doing right here, he still got to stand before God and ask for that because he was lying when that girl asked him. When she asked him a question, he lied about it. You see what I'm saying? So you got to understand, sin feels good in the beginning. It's gonna give you what you want. It's gonna give you that high you need. It's gonna give you that money, the cars, the clothes, the girls, and the popularity. It's gonna give you all that. But in the end, when it's done, it's gonna take way more than it ever gave. You know what I'm saying? I can't tell you how many dudes I know hustle. They had the cars and the clothes, and you know what I'm saying, the money and the girls and all that. And all it took for them getting popped once and going to prison for 5 years, and then when they could get out, where they at? They worse off than what they was. Because not only did they lose everything that they had, they ain't even got nothing to start back up. They didn't even go back to the beginning. They went past the beginning where they started. They farther off from where they started from. You see what I'm saying? That's what sin does. The game always takes more than it gives. It gives. And that's why I tell my boys, you know what I'm saying, because they're adults now and they're making their own decisions. I always tell them the game will give. In the beginning, it will give. It does give, but it always takes more than it gives. It always wins. And you got to understand, when you sinning, sin is all it's doing is setting you up to fail. You know what I'm saying? He's with this woman. Because we got to look at Delilah. Yes, she's a person, but we got to look at her. She was basically sin. That was his sin. Delilah was his sin. And all of, like I told you in the beginning of this, all of us have some Delilahs. All of us have something in our lives that's trying to set us up to fail. You know what I'm saying? And that's what the whole purpose of this lesson was. That's why I wanted to take my time and go through the life of Samson, so we'll be able to see our Delilahs before it gets too late. You see what I'm saying? He couldn't see that. He couldn't see that this girl was trying to set him up to fail. You know what I'm saying? Because again, she said she had dudes hiding in her house. What's that? That's a setup. You know what I'm saying? Come over here, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, gave him some sex or whatever, gave him some drink, got him to go to sleep, and then had dudes hiding in the cars waiting for him. I know several folks that didn't got like that in Memphis. That was a thing, you know what I'm saying? Dude meet a girl at the club, hey, come, let's go back to the hotel, and, you know, don't realize she either tell the guys, and some guys that's waiting on her, work the hotel in, or if they go back to her room, she already got the guys waiting in the bathroom. So you walk in there, it's OV for you. You know what I'm saying? It's a setup. And that's what sin is. Sin is a setup for failure. If you're doing whatever you're doing is illegal or something you're not supposed to do, you might make plenty of money off of it in the beginning. But I always tell them, once it catches you, it's gonna catch you. And you're gonna lose way more than what it gave. Always. I've never seen anybody that come out ahead on sin. And like I said, even if you get by in this world and you end up being a gangster and dying at a good old age of 80, you know what I'm saying? You still got to go through that door called death, and you got to face the Lord on the other side. So you never really get away with anything. And if you're not saved when you go through that door called death, then guess what? You live 80 years here, you live 80 years here on earth, you know what I'm saying, living good, but now you got to live eternity in a place called hell, where the worm never dies and the fire's never quenched. So how much did you really gain? Nothing. So that's what you got to understand. Sin always takes more than it gives. Like I said, it does give. I don't want y'all to think on me. It does give. It'll give you the fun and the notoriety and the women, the cars, and all that stuff that you want, but it always takes more. You know what I'm saying? So when you sinning, it's setting you up for failure. So whatever you're doing, you sinning to do it, then guess what? You setting up, just know that at the end, if you don't change your heart before it's too late, at the end of the road, it's failure waiting on you. Sin always sets you up. And that's what she's doing here with this guy. Because she asked him, I mean, and the crazy part, it should be obvious. Just like I think to us, it should be so obvious that these things we doing is not good things and it's going to end bad. It should be obvious, but it's not. Because we're blinded by it. When you enter sin, man, you be blinded. You only thinking about the good. You're not thinking about the bad. And right here, I guess whatever she had that he liked, he loved it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what she had that he liked. You know what I'm saying? But he loved whatever it was, whatever, I don't know, her breast or booty or whatever it was that she had this man captivated to the point where he was completely blind to the fact that she was trying to set him up for failure. You know what I'm saying? She must have that she must have that sundress. It's about to be sundress season. And whatever it was when that light hit that sundress, but it had this man captivated to where he couldn't turn away even though she was trying to set him up. Because again, he told her, she asked him, what can I do to make you fail? That's basically what she said. What can I do so you will fail? What can I do to make you fail? And he told her, and she did that the exact thing that he told her to do, and she had some dudes waiting on her. She was setting them up. So watch what happened. So he said she had hidden some men in one of the rooms of her house, and she cried out, Samson, the Philistines has come to capture you. But it says, but then Samson snapped the bowstrings as if they were just snapped the bowstrings as if they were just string that had been burned in the fire. So the secret of his strength was not discovered. So why was his secret not discovered? Because number five, there's a reference back to number five. And what's the number five? Our faithlessness does not diminish God's faithfulness. See, he's not being faithful. He's somewhere he's not supposed to be. He's out of the will of God, but yet you see God is still with him. Even though he's doing stuff he's not supposed to, God is still with him. And that's what I try to tell people, man. I don't care how bad you are. I don't care how, I can't tell you how many guys I talked to in jail that they were just like, oh man, I did too much, and there's no way God can forgive me for this. Man, our faithlessness does not diminish God's favor. God is faithful and just to forgive us as long as we truly repent and turn our hearts back to him. He's faithful and just to forgive us. And we see here with Samson. Samson has basically, at this point, he's broken every single law of the Nazarite that he would. And he's done every single thing. He wasn't supposed to be drinking. We saw he was drinking. He wasn't supposed to be around grapes. We saw he was around grapes. He wasn't supposed to be having sex with women outside of the nation of Israel. He's doing that. Matter of fact, outside of marriage, and definitely not a foreigner. He's doing that. He's done every single thing that the Lord said not to do. But yet, when the situation called for, he was in a bad situation. What happened? The Lord showed up. Why? Because our faithlessness does not diminish God's faithfulness. You know what I'm saying? Our faithlessness does not diminish God's faithfulness. So then in verse 10, it says, so afterward, Delilah said to him, you made fun of me and told me a lie. So again, they go that so he was lying. So, you know what I'm saying? So they go there, number 6 again. She said, but he says, afterward, Delilah said to him, you have made fun of me and told me a lie. Now, please tell me how you can be tied up securely. So hold on. So for them to be having this conversation, what does that mean? That means he's still dealing with this woman when she's obviously trying to set him up to fail. You see what I'm saying? That's what sin will do to you. It'll blind you. It gives you that lack of wisdom. That's the reference back to number 3, the lack of wisdom. But also that's a reference to number 13. It makes you a fool. That's foolish. Man, he knows without a doubt, because she asked him, basically, what can I do to make you fail? He told her, and she did that thing, but yet he's still hanging out with her. See, that's the reference back to number 13. And number 13 was the 13th result of sin is it'll make you a fool. You know what I'm saying? And what is a fool? You know, what is a fool? That's something, another definition I went over. You know what I'm saying? Because we saw he was a fool over in chapter 15 because he gave into his anger. And what the Proverbs say about anybody that gives into his anger is a fool. And we saw when he gave into his anger, and he slaughtered a lot of people because of it. But here also a fool. The Bible talks about, and I've shared this with y'all before. The Bible talks about 3 kind of people. There's the wise, the wise, the simple, and the fool. A wise man, you know what I'm saying, listens to the word of God, understands when God is telling him to do something or not do something, and he listens to it, and he learns from his mistakes, but more importantly, he know how to learn from the mistakes of others. That's what a wise man does. Simple, they just don't get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you look at somebody like with mental retardation, or like my older son, my middle son, he has autism. He's simple, he just don't get it. Now, once you sit down and explain it to him, and the concepts and everything, he gets it, but just off the top of his head, he don't get it. You know what I'm saying? But then you got the fool. What is a fool? A fool is somebody that doesn't learn. You know what I'm saying? A fool is somebody that sit there and keep doing the same thing over and over and over. And you know what I'm saying? No matter how bad things happen, how bad things get, no matter what happens to him, he just keep on going back to that same thing. That's what a fool. And that's what Samson is. It's obvious this woman is setting him up to fail. It's obvious he's trying to take his life, but yet he's still going back to her. Because for them to be having this conversation, this means he must still be hanging out with her. So then in verse 11, so he said, she said afterward, so this is after she has tried to set him up. You know what I'm saying? She said to him, you made fun of me and told me a lie. Now, please tell me how you can be tied up securely. So then in verse 11, says Samson replied, if I am tied up with brand new ropes that have never been used, I'll be as weak as anyone else. So once again, he lied again. Again, I know he's playing with her, but still, a lie is a lie. Whether he's playing or not, a lie is a lie. So again, we see where it's just leading to more sins. So then in verse 12 says, so Delilah took, again, he told her, get some brand new ropes, I'll be weak as everybody else. So verse 12 says, so Delilah took new ropes and tied them up with them. And the men were hiding in the room as before, And again, Delilah yelled out, Samson, the Philistines have come to capture you. So that's once again, she set him up. She says, so it should be obvious, like, okay, anybody that got any kind of sense would be like, okay, man, this chick is trying to kill me. I need to leave her alone. You know what I'm saying? For words say, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. This is the second time that she set him up, had some dudes waiting on him. She set him up, and again, we got to look at her. Yes, her name is Delilah, but she is sin. She's a picture of sin. And what is she doing? She's trying to set him up to fail. She's trying to set him up to fail. You know what I'm saying? It's obvious that he's twice she asked him what can I do to make you feel? Twice he's told her something she can do to make him feel, and she's done that thing twice. You know what I'm saying? And watch what happened. He said, but Samson snapped the ropes from his arms as if they was thread. So once again, God showed up. So even though the sin's trying to take him out, God has still got his back. Because right now, he still got the potential to do something. God sees he still got some potential to do something. He still got, I'm going to keep him safe and protected. He still got potential. He ain't abandoned me completely yet, but he still got potential, so I'm gonna take care of him. So sin is trying to take you out, and God is trying to push you forward. God is trying to protect you and keep you away from the sin. That's why he says, again, in the Bible, don't do this, don't do that. Because he knows that if you do those things, go those places and say those things, he knows where you're going to end up at. That's why he said, that's why he gave us these rules. That's why he gave us these laws that keep us from situations like this. Because he knows once we get to sin, what sin is going to do, how it's going to end. It's going to end badly. So again, he told her, she asked him, what can I do to make you fail? And he told us, if I'm tied up with brand new ropes that have never been used, I'll be as weak as anyone else. And once again, what she do? She went and got some brand new ropes and tied them up, had dudes hiding in the house. So send them up again. But then once again, it said, but Samson snapped the ropes from his arms as if they was thread. So once again, God showed up and protected him. So down to verse 13, he said, then Delilah said, you have been making fun of me and telling me lies. Won't you please tell me how you can be tied up securely? So once again, this lady has set him up to fail, but yet he has such a lack of wisdom that he's still hanging with her. Now, again, the first time, okay, she was just playing around. Second time, all right, no, she ain't playing. She's trying to kill me. So it should be obvious that I need to get away from this one. Because if I keep on messing with her, it's going to be my downfall. Anybody that has any sense, common sense, the slightest bit of common sense would know that. So what? This make him a fool. He's a fool, but why is he a fool? Because he's giving in to his sin. That's what sin does to you. It makes you, it takes away your ability to think rationally. It takes away that common sense. It takes away that extra talent, the ability that God has given us to make reasonable decisions. It takes all that away because you're so blinded by what this sin is giving you. Because like I said, it does give you. You know, if you read the Bible, it says the pleasures of sin is good for a season. It causes pleasures for a reason because it feels good. It is giving you something. But you got to realize it's going to take more than in the end, and it's going to take way more than what it gave you. And see, Samson can't do that. So so twice she set this dude up for failure, and yet after she set him up for failure, obviously set him up. It ain't like he's like, oh, maybe she's just playing. The first time, like I said, he can get away with that. Second time, no. But yet, look what it says. Then Delilah said. So they still hanging out. He's still hanging out with her, even though she's trying to take him out. So then she asked him a third time, what can I do to make you fail? So for the third time, Samson replied, if you were to weave the 7 braids of my hair into the fabric on your loom and tighten it with the loom shuttle, I would be as weak as anyone else. So what happened? So while he slept, so once again, it's a reference back to number 6. Once again, he lied. There's more sins compounded on top of sins. But then watch this. It says, so while he slept. So what does that make him? A fool. Because obviously this woman is trying to take him out. She's trying to make him fail. You know what I'm saying? She set him up and had dudes hiding in a place waiting on him. But yet he's still so foolish that he's still messing with her. And not only is he messing with her, he's so comfortable enough. He's not comfortable enough around her that he's sleeping around her. It ain't no way in the world I'm going to have some chick, set me up, have dudes in her house waiting on me, and I'm going to still go over her house and sleep. You see what I'm saying? But why is he doing it? Because he's a fool. That's what sin does. There's a reference back to 13 again. He's a fool. So it says, so while he slept, Delilah wove the 7 braids of his hair into the fabric and tightened it with the loom shuttle. And again she cried out, Samson, the Philistines have come to capture you. So once again, she tried to set him up again. That's the third time. You know what I'm saying? What is a strike three? You out. Strike three honestly, it shouldn't have been a strike three. If he had any wisdom at all, it wouldn't have been a strike three. It really should have been a strike two. But like I said, you can always forget that first one. But after the second one, it was like, I'm done with her. She's trying to kill, she's trying to take me out of here. She's trying to make me feel I'm done with her. That shouldn't be a strike three. You know what I'm saying? But yet it is because he's foolish. He has a lack of wisdom and he's foolish because he's been living his whole life giving into sin. You see what I'm saying? And that's what sin does. It blinds you to the truth. It blinds you to the fact that you're putting yourself in danger. It blinds you to the fact that it's putting you in harm's way. It blinds you to that, so you just keep on giving into the sin. So it says, once again though, it says, so she wove his hair into the fabric, like he said, told her that. But once again, Samson woke up, pulled back the loom shadow, and yanked his hair away from the loom and the fabric. So once again, God was with him. See what I'm saying? God was with him. But you notice the reason why he's constantly doing this stuff that he's not supposed to be doing, because really he hasn't been affected yet. Now, you remember his family got affected. You remember the Philistines, they end up going in and raiding the village when they were looking for him. So his family got affected, but it didn't hurt him. I mean, yeah, they turned his back on him, but he could have been like, man, forget them anyway. I didn't like them anyway. But yet, Samson has yet to really feel the effect of his sin, and that's why he keeps going. So not only is he blinded by the sin, not only is he being foolish because of the sin, it's not affecting him. So why stop? You know what I'm saying? So fine. And then God keeps on come rescuing him. I know I had like with my oldest son, boy, he was such a knucklehead, still a knucklehead to this day. And he'd get in trouble, and I'd be like, oh, find it good. You know what I'm saying? He got into some trouble. Maybe this will straighten him out. And then stuff always happened and to take him out of trouble. I'm like, God, this boy ain't gonna learn nothing if you keep on protecting him. You know what I'm saying? If you keep on keeping him safe, he get them out of the trouble that he get himself in. If he keep on doing that, you know what I'm saying? He ain't gonna never learn. You know what I'm saying? But he always seen he'll get in trouble and he always seem to get out of it. And that's what's happening here with Samson. Same thing. He gets in trouble. This girl is setting him up, but yet God is still with him. So why stop? So then in verse 15 it says, so then Delilah pouted. How can you say you love me? So again, she's already set him up 3 times. And the fact that they're still talking shows you how foolish, just how much of a lack of wisdom that this guy has and how foolish that he is to still be dealing with this woman. So then it said, then Delilah pouted. How can you say you love me when you don't confide in me? You've made fun of me 3 times now, and you still haven't told me what makes you so strong. So day after day, she nagged him until he couldn't stand it any longer. Now, right there, I like to read the King. I told you I'm going to have a couple of references to the King James Version. I like to read the King James Version because I like because it's a lot stronger. You really get what happened, what she did to him. She put them feminine wiles on him. Oh, stop crying. I know I can't stand tears, and I can't stand my wife get to crying and all that stuff. I just don't do good with tears and seeing a woman sad. So, oh, you don't love me. You keep on lying to me. You supposed to love. You say you love me. You won't tell me your secret. And you imagine this going on day after day after day. And as a man, that'll drive you crazy. But watch what it said, the way it worded in the King James Version. Verse 16 in the King James Version said, and it came to pass when she pressed him daily with her words and urged him so that his soul was vexed to death. I mean, it wasn't just that she just nagged him. Like she said, she got on his nerves when he felt like he was about to die. You know why? Because what did I tell y'all for number 24? What did she do? She took away his peace. He loved his one. He's over there laying up with her. Like I said, her coochie must have been made out of gold. Because, I mean, he just did not see what she was doing to him. You know what I'm saying? And he didn't want to let it go. So what did she do? She took away his peace. It got to a point she had took his peace away so much that he just like, forget it. I can't stand this no more. You know what I'm saying? And what did I tell y'all for number 24? What does sin do? It takes away your peace. You know what I'm saying? Every time you go over your girlfriend's house, she whining and crying. You going over to hang out or watch a movie or whatever you're going to do. And every single time you go over there, she's in a bad mood, whining and crying. You know what I'm saying? That's not going to be good, especially for somebody that you really love and care for. You're not going to be good. You're not going to have no peace. You see what I'm saying? And that's what she did. And remember, I told y'all, look at her. Like, yes, she's Delilah, but look at her as sin. That's what she is. She's sin for the story. She is sin, and she took away his peace. And what happened because she took away his peace? It says, so finally, in verse 17, finally Samson told her his secret. My hair has never been cut, he confessed, for I was dedicated to God as a Nazarite from birth. So he knew that he was dedicated to God. It ain't like he was living his life and just, oh, I'm just living my life, and he had no clue that God had this work for him to do. He knew he was dedicated to God from birth. He knew it. So he said, I must confess. He said, he confessed, for I was dedicated to God as a Nazarite from birth. If my head was shaved, my strength would leave me, and I would become weak as anyone else. So what is that? Number three, a lack of wisdom. Reference back to number three, a lack of wisdom. How dumb can you be? She's already set you up 3 times. She already asked you what you need to do to make you feel, and she's done those things 3 times. She's trying to kill you. You know what I'm saying? And in verse 13, again, number 13, he's become a fool because he's so engulfed by his sin. You know what I'm saying? But then at the same time, it'll make you do number 27. You know, so number 27, it'll make you number 27 said result saying number 27 is this. It'll make you aim your faith and trust in the wrong direction. So not only is it like number 9, you start trusting the wrong people, but if you put your faith in the wrong people, this woman is obviously not for you. So why would you put enough trust and faith in her to tell her your big secret that'll keep you that'll make you fail, basically. You know what I'm saying? Now, when you look at this 3 times she's trying to set this dude up, and yet this 4th time he tells her exactly what she need to do to set him up. How dumb can you be? Is it not obvious that she's trying to kill you? Is it not obvious that she's setting you up to fail? So why in the Sam heck would you go and tell her your secret to actually tell her the truth? You know why? Because that's what sin does. It makes you a fool, and not only make you a fool, it give you a lack of wisdom. Now, let's go back to the question I asked y'all. Now, I ain't seen nobody answer here in the thing, at least nothing popped up. You know what I'm saying? I ain't seen nobody answer here in the thing, but what did I ask y'all before I start going to this story? How many of y'all been in trouble before, and how many of y'all been in trouble for the same thing? And what? We all raised our hand. At least I know I raised my hand. You know what I'm saying? So we can't sit here and judge him when we've done the exact same thing he's done. You see what I'm saying? See, when you're looking from the outside, looking in, you're looking at somebody else's life, you're like, man, he's an idiot. He's a freaking idiot. How can you be that dumb? But yet, we've all done the exact same thing. We've all done something that got us in trouble and then went right back and did the same thing again. That's the exact same thing he's doing. The exact same thing. Yes, it might be a little bit more strange, but it's the exact same thing. We've all did some sin, and we all got sins in our life. We all got Delilahs. We all got something in our lives that's trying to lead us down a path away from the Lord. And that's basically what she was. She was something in his life that was leading him down a path away from the Lord because he was so blinded by his sin to see that he was on the wrong path. You know what I'm saying? So he was so blinded by the sin and what the sin was doing for him that what did he do? He gave in. He put his faith and trust in this woman because he loved her. Because she finally figured out, I'm gonna take away his peace and I give him a break. And she broke him. She did. She broke him and she took away his peace, and he ended up putting his faith and trust in her. And that's what sin to do. See, it'll have you putting your faith and trust in the government. You know what I'm saying? It'll have you putting your faith and trust in your money. It'll have you putting your faith and trust in man, but it won't make you put your faith and trust in God. And again, that's why we have the situation that we have going on right now. We have gotten away from putting our faith and trust in God, and we put our faith and trust in the internet and the news and whatever, the president and whatever anybody else say. We put our faith and trust in everybody else but God. We'll go and talk to everybody else about our problem, but we won't take it to God. We'll go asking everybody else about what we should do to get out of certain situation, but we won't get in this word and find out what we need to do from God's word. You see what I'm saying? That's what sin does. It pushes you away from this book. It pushes you away from God. And that's exactly what Delilah was doing for Samson. She was pushing him away from God. You know what I'm saying? And he even said, she's like, wow, why are you so strong? Well, I've been dedicated as a Nazarite. And I'm pretty sure when he said that, she was like, you know what I'm saying? Wow, like really? Because you don't, you know what I'm saying? You don't really live like a man of God. You don't live like somebody, that was dedicated to God from the beginning, not with the way you living, the way you down around here doing the stuff that we've been doing. A godly man wouldn't do that. You see what I'm saying? That's what that sin had been doing this whole time. Since he's been giving into the sin, he's been moving farther and farther away from God. And the problem with that is there's going to be a consequence that we're going to end up paying, and we're not going to see it until it's too late. And he's going to end up paying dearly for that. So it says in verse 18, it says, so Delilah realized that he finally told her the truth. Like, oh, okay, he really told the truth this time. So it says, so she sent for the Philistine leaders come back one more time, she said, for he has told me everything. And again, the way the King James Version reads said, I like the way it puts here. It said Delilah saw that he had told her all his heart. So again, he told her everything. That's the way the King James Version was. He told her everything, and she realized, like, oh, I finally got the truth out of him. So what she do? So she went back and said, he's told me everything. Come back one more time. So the Philistines leaders returned and brought the money with them. Hey, I got him. I got him. You know what I'm saying? Bring that money y'all promised me. So once again, we see that reference back to number 7, which was selfishness. But we also see that reference back to number 26. The sin was setting them up. Sin to make you selfish, but also sin will set you up to fall. So then it said, Delilah lulled Samson to sleep with his hand in her lap, and she called in the man to shave off his hair, making his capture certain. So again, we see back another reference back to number 3, number 13. His lack of wisdom. Man, you just sit there, this woman been trying to set you up. And you just sit there and told her what she can do to set you up. You actually told her the truth that if you get your hair cut, then you'll lose your strength. But yet you're gonna go to sleep with her head in your lap and was sleep enough to where somebody was able to come in and give you a haircut. You didn't even wake up and notice it. So once again, we see the lack of wisdom and we see the foolishness of Samson because he spent so long, much of his life giving into his sin. So then watch what happened. And this is the main idea. This next section here, this next verse here, the next couple of verses here is the main point of the lesson. This is what you lose. This is why you lose out so much when you give into sin. So it says, so she lulled him asleep with his head in her lap, and she called in the man to shave off his hair, making his captor certain. And watch what the next line it said, and his strength left him. Then she cried out, Samson, the Philistines have come to capture you. So when he woke up, he thought, I will do as before and shake myself free. So you see, it's that pride. So that shows you right there, that's my point, that pride has swelled up. He's been playing the game this whole time. And he been playing the game this whole time, think it was funny because of his pride. You know what I'm saying? And basically this whole time he's playing with this girl, he's playing with fire. And that's what y'all got to realize. When you out here sinning, you out here perfectly sinning, you're playing with fire. It's only a matter of time before you get burnt. And that's what happened with him. He kept on playing with fire because his pride had swelled up. Because every time he got himself in a bad situation, God got him out of it. But it was a reason why God got him out of it. Because he was still, you know what I'm saying, he still had God's protection on him. But this next line, when your pride swell up and you continue to play with sin, you keep on going down the path doing the things that you want to do instead of what you're supposed to do, watch what's going to happen. So it says, so when he woke up, he thought, I'll do as before and shake myself free. So again, that's his pride. Now here you go. This is the most important. Out of this whole story, this is the most important line. This is the ultimate loss that you will receive when you're dealing with sin. It says, so and I want to read it again. It said, when he woke up, he thought, I would do as before and shake myself free. It said, but now you notice earlier it said his strength left him. He said, but in this line it says, but he didn't realize the Lord had left him. Get that again. I want y'all to catch that. He said, but he didn't realize the Lord. He said, when he woke up, he thought, I would do it before and shake myself free. He said, but he didn't realize the Lord had left him. See what I'm saying? He didn't realize the Lord had left him. See, what happened? He lost the power to do the work. He lost the power to do the work. Why? Because he kept giving into sin. The Lord, it said we woke up thinking, his pride had got swelled up. He's been playing with this game. He's been playing with fire this whole time. But guess what? Now he's about to get burned. And that's what happened when you're out there dabbling in sin. You know what I'm saying? I've had folks tell me, oh man, I'm gonna do this and do that, and I'm gonna get it out of my system, and then I'm gonna get back to the Lord, or I'm gonna come to the Lord. You playing with fire right there. I remember this one day, I never forget it. It was this young cat when I was going down soul winning the project in Nashville, and I came across this young guy, talked to him, and he knew he wasn't saved, and knew he needed to get saved. And I'm sitting there talking to him, and he flat told me, he said, man, look, man, I'm a hustler. He said, I got something, I'm trying to work out some things with my baby mom, blah, 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 and I really need money right now. He said, and I hate to come to God, and I know my heart not truly in it because I got to do some things I'm not supposed to be doing. And I said, and I gave him my number, and I'm like, bro, I hate that for you. I said, but I'll let you know you're praying with fire because you don't know how much time you got. You know what I'm saying? When you pray with fire, you will get burned. And that's what's been happening to Samson this whole time. He's been playing with this fire. And now he's about to get burned because of his pride. So he said he woke up thinking he was going to break loose, but he didn't realize the Lord had left him. So number 28, and this is out of all the results of sin. You know what I'm saying? Y'all going to think the last one, because I got about 4 more. You're going to think the last one is the worst one. But to me, out of all the results of sin, number 28 is the worst one. And number 28 is this. It'll make you lose God's grace. That's what sin does. It takes you out of God's grace. Everything that you're able to do, good, bad, or ugly, everything that you have the ability to do, you're able to do those things because of the grace of God. You know what I'm saying? I don't care how good you are at something. I don't care how bad you are at something. The fact that you wake up in the morning and you open your eyes again and you're able to move around and function, that's all because of the grace of God. You know what I'm saying? But there's a point. You know what I'm saying? The Bible says, careful, God is not mocked. There comes a point where God gets tired of playing with you. You know what I'm saying? There comes a point where he gets tired of playing with you, and he'd be like, all right, says, you know what I'm saying, you want to keep on playing, you want to play up this fire, I'm going to take my hand off you and let you get burnt. You know what I'm saying? And that's what's about to happen to Samson. He just lost God's grace. You know what I'm saying? He just lost God's grace. You know what I'm saying? And that's what happened to him. And I always ask people, you know what I'm saying, when I'm doing the story in the jail, like I always ask them, like, why do y'all think that God left him this time? Because I mean, he's been hard-headed. As y'all saying, we've been going through this, especially been following all the videos. He's been hard-headed the whole time. He's done millions of things. He's broken just about on every day. He's broken every rule that God had given him as a Nazarite. He's broken all these rules and all these laws. So it ain't like, you know what I'm saying, this is the first time doing it. Why God left him now? And I always tell him it's because the whole time he always had potential. Because even though he broke every single rule that God had given him, he still hadn't cut his hair. So that was the one rule that he hadn't broke. He broke everything else, but he hadn't cut his hair. So when he cut his hair, guess what? He finally had broken every single rule. See, that hair was like potential. Yes, I know he's being hard-headed. Yes, I know he's drinking. Yes, I know he's eating stuff he's not supposed to be. But he still got potential. He haven't cut his hair yet, which means he still got potential. So when his hair got cut, he had finally broke every single rule that God had given him. So the potential was gone. You know what I'm saying? God finally, I ain't gonna say God realized, God finally saw that because of this man's, because his intentions to sin, because he was so intent on sin, he was never going to be able to truly do the work that God has for him to do. So finally, God just took his hand off of him, and he lost God's grace. Because you notice that first it said, because those are two different things. Because you know the first it said the strength left him, and the first in paragraph, what was that? In verse 19, the end of verse 19 said the strength left him, but it wasn't down to here in the end of verse 20 where it says God had left him. See, God is our strength. And I say everything we're able to do is because of the Lord. So his strength, the little strength that he had, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, we might have a little strength, we can work out and you know what I'm saying, have a strong will and do things on our own, but we're not going to be successful if we don't have God with us. And see, he lost his strength, but then he lost God, and he lost God's grace, and that's what really paralyzed him, because the Lord had left him, and he lost God's grace because he gave into his sin, and that's what sin does. It takes you out of the grace of God. And see, once you leave the grace of God, watch what else happens. Then your life started to crumble. So it said in verse 21, look what happened. Now, up until this point, he's had God's grace on him. So even though he was sinning and everybody else was paying around him, he still hadn't been affected himself. But now he just lost God's grace. So here's the very next thing that happened. In verse 21, it says, so the Philistines captured him and gouged out his eye. See, this is the very first time that he's actually been affected by his own sin. Because of his own sin and his own pride and all the things he's been doing, this is the first time now he got his eyes gouged out. He lost his sight. You see what I'm saying? Because he wasn't using that sight anyway. You know what I'm saying? He was using that sight for the wrong things anyway. He might as well lose it. You know, and you got to understand something too. They said he guys like that. This was back in the day. So it ain't like they had like surgeons, you know what I'm saying? And there was a nice, neat little thing. No, they popped your eye out, and they take a hot coal and singe your eye, the eye sockets together, you know what I'm saying? So you don't bleed out, so you can suffer. So I mean, that was a painful thing. They gouged his eyes out. And like I said, they take basically a little hot poker and pop your eye out and singe your eye sockets at the same time so you don't bleed out. That's what he just experienced. See, now he's getting to the end. Why did it affect him now? Because now he's getting to the end of that road. See, all this time, God has been with him. He's been drinking and having all these women and partying and doing all those stuff, killing folks, robbing folks. He's been enjoying those benefits of that sin so far. But now, guess what? It's time for sin to come and take his paper. You know, it's time to make that same payment. Somebody said, I think it was on one of those church boards or whatever. It's like seen as like a credit card. It's fun in the beginning when you're spending all that money, but someday you're gonna have to pay. You're gonna have to pay for that. You're gonna have to pay that bill. When that bill come up, it ain't as fun. And that's what's happening now. He's been living his whole life doing what he wanted to do instead of what God wanted to do. Now it's time to pay the piper. Now it's time for that bill to come up. And guess what? He just lost his eyes. But that's not the only thing he's gonna lose. So he just lost his eyes. You know what I'm saying? Oh, and number 29 was this. So first of all, we saw in 28 where he lost God's grace, and because he lost God's grace, guess what happened? Number 29, it tears down your wall of protection. You know what I'm saying? It tears down the head about when you're doing God's work, when you're in the will of God, there's a wall of protection around you. You can't see it. You know what I'm saying? That's why when I pray, I thank God for everything that I know He's done for me, but I also thank God for everything that I don't know He's done. Because I know as much as I've seen him do, there's probably millions of more things that I haven't seen him do because of the wall of protection around me. I can't tell you how many, I don't know how many times that the devil has tried to attack me or people have tried to do me wrong that God protected me from. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because I had his grace upon me. But see, once you lose that grace, you lose that wall of protection. And once you lose that wall of protection, then guess what? The devil can get to you. You know what I'm saying? What am I talking about? I have a proof of it. Go read Job. Go read Job, because what happened when the devil went to the Lord to accuse Job? You know, what I'm saying? He's like, oh, man, you see my servant Job down there, and man, he's faithful. He escheweth evil, the most faithful man in the land. You know, he went on bragging on Job. And what did the devil say? What did the devil say? Yeah, because of that wall of protection you got around him. I guarantee you, you take down that wall, let me over that wall. I guarantee you, I can get him and make him curse you to your face. See what I'm saying? Job had the God's grace on his life because he was a faithful man. He had that wall of protection around him because he had God's grace on his life. But see, then when now Job didn't do nothing to lose that. You know what I'm saying? The Lord allowed the devil to get over that wall. But in this situation, we see what Samson lost his because he kept on going to doing the sin, committing the sins instead of doing the things that God wanted him to do. So he actually lost his wall of protection. He lost his grace because of the decisions that he's made. You know what I'm saying? And you might say, well, the Lord is punishing him. No, the Lord is not punishing him. The Lord is just allowing him to pay for the consequence of his action. See, so far, the Lord's been protecting him from no consequence. When he was out there by the vineyard and the lion attacked him, what happened? The Lord stepped in and said the power of the Lord took over him, and it protected him. When he was out there, when laid up with the prostitute, and the men of the city was trying to kill him, the Lord protected him. You know, he gave him strength to get out of the situation. But now the Lord is tired of protecting him. Because the more the Lord protects him, the more he do the things he's not supposed to do. So guess what? The Lord just took that hand of grace from upon him. You know what I'm saying? So that wall of protection came down, and now guess what? He just lost his eyes. You see what I'm saying? Now it's time for him to pay the piper. Now it's time for him that bill is coming due. That credit card bill is coming due, and watch what's going to happen to him. So not only did he lose his eyes, it says they took him to Gaza, where he was bound with bronze chains and made to grind grain in the prison. But before long, his hair began to grow back. So that takes you back to number 12. Number 12, reference back to number 12 is what? He regressing instead of progressing. You got to think about it. He's regressing instead of progressing because he was a leader, and he's supposed to be a leader of Egypt, which is basically like a king. A judge was basically like the king of Egypt. I mean, not Egypt. I'm sorry, Israel. You know what I'm saying? He was basically like the king of. He was the authority figure in Israel. So basically like a king. So he should have been a leader of Israel. And now where he's at, he's in a prison grinding grain. You see what I'm saying? So he's regressing instead of progressing. Had he been doing what he's supposed to be doing, he would have become a general and maybe eventually become like the king. I know the king's gonna come along to a little bit later down the road, so at the end of this book of Judges. But he could have became like a king. He could have had more power and been a powerful leader in that way instead of being in a situation where he's now grinding grain in a prison with no eyes. So again, number 2, it reference back to number 12. What sin does, so it make you regress instead of progress. But also, this is number 30. We got 2 more after this, and I'll be done. Number 30, it takes away your freedom. Sin takes away your freedom. When you really let that sin get into you, and you always giving into it, it takes away your freedom. It keeps you giving. It takes away the ability for you to do anything that you're supposed to be doing. It takes away your freedom. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know, and y'all heard my testimony before. You know what I'm saying? I live with drug addicts. You know what I'm saying? I live with alcoholics. And, you know, those people are a slave to this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Drug addicts, they don't do what they want to do. They do what they got to do to get them drugs in their system. They do what them drugs, they body tell them to do to get more drugs. You know what I'm saying? I remember, y'all heard me talk about this before. I remember as a kid, you know what I'm saying, just pleading with my mama, please stop doing this, writing her letters, you know what I'm saying, notes, if you love me, stop doing this. And I never could understand as a kid, how can she love this? Though I thought she loved this drug more than she loved me. And it wasn't that she loved the drug more than she loved me. It was just that drug had her captive. She was a slave to the drug. She had to do what she had to do to get those drugs in her. She was a slave. She was not free, even though she wasn't in jail. She wasn't free. You know what I'm saying? People that have to drink alcohol every single day, they might not be in jail, but they're not free. They're prisoners to this sin that is in their life. If you somebody that's always chasing women, you might not be in jail, but you're not free. You're gonna do what you gotta do to take care of that physical pleasure. You know what I'm saying? That was Samson. Samson went in jail. Well, he's in jail now, but initially, up until this point, he wasn't in jail, but he wasn't free because he was always chasing the women. All these women always had control over him. Same with money. You know what I'm saying? You might not be in jail, but you're not free. You're gonna do whatever that money dictates you to do. Forget going to church on Sunday. I'm gonna go work some overtime so I can get more money, so I can buy more things. You're a slave to those things. And what else we gotta understand? Sin takes us away. It takes away our freedom. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, if you feel like because you're getting this pleasure, you're getting this physical satisfaction, you feel like you're winning, but you're not. You're not winning when you're sinning. And it always takes away. So you see, it's took away his sight. Just toward the end of it, it's taking away his sight. It's taking away his position. You know what I'm saying? And now it's taking away his freedom. So I guarantee you that if Samson knew this is how his life was going to end, he probably would have stayed a virgin. If he knew that his life was going to end like this because of his love for women, him chasing women, lusting after women, I guarantee he probably would have stayed a virgin. If he knew that he was going to end up in prison one day with his eyes gouged out, his eyes burnt out of his head. Just like David. If David knew that when he hooked up with Bathsheba, that he was going to end up losing two of his sons, you know what I'm saying, losing his kingdom, I guarantee you he would have messed with that woman. You see what I'm saying? And that's why I was telling y'all when we first started this lesson, that's why a lot of times we sin. That's why we keep doing the things that we're doing, because we can't see how it's going to end, and we don't realize how bad it's going to end. We always convince ourselves that, oh, man, I do it. I got control over it. I stop when I want to. Oh, this ain't that bad. And we don't realize how bad it really is. And we don't realize that it puts us on the path to destruction. It puts us on the pathway to destruction. Samson didn't see that because he was so enthralled by it, he was so entangled in it that he just couldn't see it. And now he's lost his eyes, he's lost his position, and he lost his freedom. And it's still, and guess what? Sin still ain't done. We still got to get to the final part. So here you go. The grand finale. Here you go right here. So then it says, now in verse 23, it says, the Philistine leaders held a great festival, offering sacrifices and praising their God, Dagon. They said, our God has given us victory over our enemy Samson. When the people saw him, they praised their God, saying, saying, our God has delivered our enemy to us. The one who killed so many of us is now in our power. So see, that's another horrible result. That's one of I really hate. The end result of sin is this. It goes back to number 19. What is it done? Number 19 is this. It said it provides God's enemies the opportunity to despise and blaspheme him. It provides God's enemies the opportunity to despise and blaspheme. Because what are they doing? They praising their God. You know what I'm saying? Oh, we got this mighty victory. Our God must have given it to us. So they praising their God. See there, so they saying, oh, God ain't nothing. And it wasn't, Samson not in a situation because God didn't have the power to keep him out of the situation. Samson in this situation because of the decision that he made. He made the decision that put him in this situation. God just allowed him the free will to make his own decision, but now he's paying for the consequences. And that takes us to number 31. Number 31 is this. You know what I'm saying? And this is another one of the more horrible results of sin. 28 is the worst one. It takes, that you lose God's grace in your life. That's the worst one. You know what I'm saying? But again, 29, all the rest of them are just horrible. 29, it takes away, what else? I got to flip back. 28 was, like I said, 28 was the worst one. 29 was bad. It turns down your wall of protection. You need that to resist the fiery darts of the devil. Number 30 takes away your freedom, and number 31, this is it. And this is another horrible one. This is why it's so bad when you got out here calling yourself a Christian and you live like the world. Number 31 is this. The number 31, the result of sin is it diminishes the glory of God. It diminishes the glory. These guys are glorifying their God because Samson had to diminish the glory of our God. That's what he did because he was out here acting a fool, out here doing stuff that he wasn't supposed to be doing. You see what I'm saying? And that's what happened. That's why when you get saved, you're supposed to live a new life. You're supposed to get away from the drugs and the alcohol and the drinking and all that and start to live differently. Because once you take on that title of Christian, you're not representing God. So when you're out here doing stuff that you're not supposed to be doing, living like the world, you're making God look bad. You're diminishing the glory of God. You know what I'm saying? That's why a lot of people don't go to the church right now because, you know what I'm saying, we diminish the glory of God. You know what I'm saying? That's why when you hear stuff like preachers stealing money, investing money out of the church, millions of dollars out of the church, that's diminishing the glory of God. When you hear Catholic priests touching little boys, that's diminishing the glory of God. You know what I'm saying? When you got a preacher somewhere getting drunk and beating on his wife or whatever, that's diminishing the glory of God. And that's one of the worst results of sin. It makes God look bad. It makes God look weak. And that's what happened. It made God look weak. They praising their God. Oh, look. Because they knew that the reason why because you gotta understand, you remember they asked him what makes him so strong? How is he so strong? And what did he finally tell Delilah? It's because he's been dedicated to God. But so he had the power of God. So now they're praising that God. They're like, man, we defeated his God. It made God look weak when really God wasn't weak. It was the man that was weak because he's the one that made these bad decisions that got him in this situation. It wasn't because God couldn't protect him. God's been protecting him this whole time. It wasn't even because God couldn't get him out of the situation. God can get him out of the situation if he wanted to. But Samson has to suffer the consequences of his actions. So number 31 it diminishes the glory of God. Once again, that's why it's so important when you say you're a Christian and you get saved to start living in life. I always tell people, yes, you're not going to be perfect overnight. It's a marathon, but you really should start working on yourself. There should be some kind of change. You should want to live a better life. You know what I'm saying? Because you represent God. Everything you do for that moment when you accept Jesus Christ, your Savior, you now become a representative of God. So when you're out here sinning and living like the world and doing the things that the world wants you to do, then guess what? You diminish the glory of God. You make God look bad because of your actions. And that's what happened to Samson. He made God look bad because of his actions. Because he out here chasing a piece of booty that he wasn't supposed to be chasing. Now he's making God look weak. Because God had to basically take his the grace and take his strength from him. So now it make God look weak. And these people sitting here worshiping their God. And you remember, that's what happened with David. That's why David was punished. Because again, that's where it came from. Because you remember when Nathan confronted David with the fact that, you know, saying God knew what he had did, he told him, he said, he basically said, you're going to have to be punished because you've given my enemies an occasion against me. You made me look bad in front of my enemies. All those naysayers, those atheists, those agnostics and all that, they get to say, aha, see? You know what I'm saying? When they see churches arguing with each other, they can say, see there, why would I want to be a part of that? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? When they see preachers molesting kids and things like that, why would I want to be? They get to say, ha ha, see, they supposed to be men of God. Why would I want to be a part of that? You know what I'm saying? Is that the kind of God they serve? I don't want to serve no God like that. You see what I'm saying? It makes God look bad. It diminishes the glory of God. And that's why it's such a bad thing to do. That's why it's so important when you make the decision to start living like Christians. Well, that's one thing I pray for when I lead people to the Lord. Lord, please come into their heart and work in their heart and give them the want to now have a close relationship with you so they can do the work that you have for them to do and they can be good representatives of you. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to bring nobody into the kingdom. They're going to make you look bad or diminish your glory because I have no say. So I just got to go out and do my work. But I do pray for that. And that's what happened with Samson because of his foolish ways, because he was so stuck on sin and chasing these women. Now he's making God look bad. Now we got these dudes here celebrating their God, making God look bad. We got these dudes here celebrating their God because of what he did. You see what I'm saying? So then watch the next verse. It says, so half drunk in 25, half drunk by now, the people demanded, bring out Samson so he can perform for us. So he was brought from the prison and made to stand at the center of the temple between the two pillars supporting the roof. Now Samson said to the servant who was leading him by the hand, place my hands against the two pillars. I want to rest against them. The temple was completely filled with people. All the Philistine leaders were there, and there were about 3,000 on the roof who were watching Samson and making fun of him. So right there, that's a reference back again to number 12. I got one more point, but I got a few more references before I get to that point. That's a reference back again to number 12. What has he done? He's regressed instead of progressed. Again, he was supposed to be the leader of Israel. He's supposed to be the one leading Israel out of this oppression that they're in. He's supposed to be freeing them from this oppression. But where's he at? He's here in jail, no eyes, having to be led around by somebody from going to being this mighty warrior, killing 1,000 dudes with a jawbone, to being led around by the hand by somebody because he can't see. See what I'm saying? He's been humbled. You know what I'm saying? He's been humiliated for more position. He lost his position. He should be a general in Israel right now. He should be, but now what he's doing? He's some drunk people entertaining. Because they said, well, they was drunk. Like, bring him out. You know what I'm saying? Let's make fun of him. You know what I'm saying? So now he went from being basically what should have been the king of the God's people to being somebody that's being used to entertain drunk people. That's what happens when you get into sin and step away from God. So you're saying he lost his power, he lost his position, he lost his mind, his freaking mind pretty much, but he lost everything that God had for him because he wanted to do what he wanted to do instead of doing what God wanted him to do. You see what I'm saying? That's what happens when you sin. You lose. So again, that sin felt good. I bet he wasn't thinking about all this when he was chasing these girls and hooking up with all these girls and laying around with prostitutes, getting drunk and all that. But you see, it started off good, but it ended bad. And just like I told y'all early in the video, sin and the game, whatever you want to call it, it always takes more than the game. Yes, it gave him some earthly pleasure. It gave him some fun for a little while. But now, what is it taking? It's taking his eyes. It's taking his freedom. It's taking his position. It's taking his dignity. It's taking his glory that God had given him. It's taking way more. You notice what it gave him? Fun and pleasure. But it's taking 5 things. And yet, it still ain't done yet. It still ain't done because watch what happened next. So they bring him out, making fun of him. Again, he's blind. He has to be led around. So instead of him being a leader, now he's having to be led because he lost his position because he wanted to constantly give in to sin. So then in verse 28, he says, so then Samson prayed, prayed to the Lord, Sovereign Lord, remember me again. Oh God, please strengthen me one more time so that I may pay back the Philistines for the loss of my eyes. Then Samson put his hands on the center pillars of the temple and pushed against and pushed against them with all his might. Let me die with the Philistines, he prayed. And the temple crashed down on the Philistine leaders and all the people. So he killed more people when he died than he had done during his entire life. So it's several references there in my last point. I want to read that whole paragraph to bring out all these last little points. So there's several references there. So first of all, it goes back to reference number 20, the inconsistent relationship with the Lord. See, had they been praying to God this whole time, had been asking the Lord to guide him this whole time, guess what? He wouldn't be in this situation right now. But see, he waits till he's in prison with his eyes gouged out before he went back to the Lord. You see what I'm saying? So again, that's what sin does. It makes you have an inconsistent relationship to the Lord. He waited till he was down out, which most people do. Most of us do that. You know what I'm saying? We want to pray to God on a daily basis, but when we get down out, oh God, come help me, Lord. Oh, I need you. See, and so an inconsistent relationship with the Lord, but also we see a reference back to number 5, because it said the Lord did give him the strength, and he was able to push those pillars down once again. So the Lord did give him the strength once again. So a reference back to number 5, which is God's faith. Our faithlessness does not affect God's faithfulness. So we see that even though God took his hand off of him, and he lost that grace of God, when he turned his heart back to the Lord came back there to him. And that's the great thing about our God, man. He's so merciful. He's so just to forgive us. That when you realize that you made a mistake and you truly turn your heart back to him, he will be there for you, even if he left you. Because it said God left him. It said God had left him. And of course, he didn't leave him. He just took his grace from him. But it said that God had left him. But yet, when he called upon, once he humbled himself and realized his mistake, he repented and he called back to God again. Guess what? God showed back up. Why? Because the Lord is faithful. So it's a reference back to number 5 again. Our faithlessness does not diminish God's faithfulness. Then there's also a reference back to number 11. Sin negatively affects everyone. Because guess what? They said they was in a Coliseum. It was so packed that there was 3,000 people on the roof. So you got to understand, that was probably, and I don't know how big Coliseum was. It don't say. But I mean, I'm pretty sure it said all the Philistine leaders was there. They had their caravans. And if you remember them Colosseum, you ever seen any of the old Greek movies or Roman movies or whatever, those Colosseums was huge. You know what I'm saying? So I say it was at least 30,000 people there with 3,000 on the roof. So there's probably 33,000 people there, and he killed all of them, all because of his sin. Because they wouldn't even have to die. Maybe, you know what I'm saying? Maybe a few would have had to die if they went to war, but maybe he could have captured the city another way, and that many people didn't have to die. But because of his sin, because he was chasing these women, 33,000, you might well say 33,000 people just lost their lives, not to mention all the ones that died leading up to this point. So about 35,000 people end up losing through this whole story, this man's life, the 20 years that he was going through, this stuff that he was going through as a judge, 30-some thousand people lost their lives. Again, I don't know that number. This is a good square number that I made up. But you know what I'm saying? A large amount of people lost their lives because of one person going somewhere doing something he wasn't supposed to be doing. And then the last reference, it also reference number 17. Other people paid the price. All those people that lost their lives, all those people that he ended up robbing, the people that he killed and robbed, you know what I'm saying? The people that lost their lives here, these is all people that had to pay the price for his sin. So you see, that's what sin does, man. That's why it's such a bad thing. That's why God can't be in the presence of it. That's why we got to give our heart and accept Jesus Christ and be washed of our sins before we get into heaven, because that's how bad sin is. But it's still the worst one, the final result of sin, and this is the last one right here. We also saw this in the verse. The final result of sin is this: death. That's what you got to understand. When you sin, that's the path it's leading you on. It's leading you toward death. You know what I'm saying? Now we all got to die. You know, whether you sin or not, you're going to die. But it gives you every time you sin, there's possibility for earlier death. Because you remember when he was by the vineyard, somewhere he wasn't supposed to be, what happened? The lions attacked him. Now God was with him and protecting him, but if God wasn't with him, he would have died right then and there. You know what I'm saying? When he was laid up with the prostitute, what's happening? The men of the city surrounded him. They was going to kill him. Once again, God was with him. But had God not been with him, he would have died. So this whole time, it was leading to sin. It was giving him. It was setting him up. But in reality, it was leading him toward his death. You know what I'm saying? Because what does it say in Romans 6:3? The wages of sin is death. And it's not on the time. The thing is, bad about the brother, it's not only talking about physical death, because you see he died physically because he died there with the Philistines, but it's also talking about a spiritual death if you're not saved. You see what I'm saying? So sin also, it kills your spirit, it kills your body, but it also kills your spirit. That's why it's so detrimental. That's why God is so intent about keeping us away from it. You see what I'm saying? And now again, had he lived his life like he's supposed to, he just died this violent death surrounded by his enemies. There's nobody there that loves him. You know, everybody there is either hates him or making fun of him. There's nobody there for him. You know, so I pray that when I get to die, I don't know what God got for me in the end, but I hope I get to be somewhere where I'm comfortable surrounded by family. I think it's everybody dreams, somewhere comfortable surrounded by family. He wasn't. He was surrounded by his enemy. And he died because the Colosseum crushed him because of what he did. You see what I'm saying? Because he pushed the pillars over. So he died this horrible, violent death, all because he couldn't keep it in his pants, basically. That's what it boiled down to, because of the love. It started with the inception of the sin was the lust of his eyes. He started having eyes for women that he wasn't supposed to have, and the end of it is death. So that's what you got to understand. That is the final result of sin. And to me, that's not the worst one. The worst one is losing God's grace. You know what I'm saying? So I guess the second worst one would be death. That's what it's leading to. Sin is trying to kill you. Whatever you have in your life that you're not supposed to, you got to realize that. You got to look at it at that extreme. This stuff is trying to kill me. You know what I'm saying? If you smoke a cigarette, you know they don't supposed to be putting that stuff in your body. It's trying to kill you. If you're drinking all the time, that alcohol is trying to kill you. If you're chasing women, these women are trying to kill you. If you're chasing men, these men are trying to kill you. If it's drugs, these drugs are trying to kill you. That's their ultimate goal, is to pull you away from God, the grace of God, and to kill you. That's the final result of sin. And that's where sin ends at, because the wages of sin is death. And again, that's physical. Now, when I go over this, when I'm showing it, I'm talking about the spiritual aspect of it. But tonight we're talking about both. Because we see here, now he was saved, the Lord came back to him, and he's in the Hebrew book 11, which is the hall of faith. So, you know, so we know he's a man of God, so he was saved, so he didn't die spiritually, but he did die physically. You know what I'm saying? But you got to understand, that's what sin does, especially if you're unsaved. Not only does it kill you physically, it kills you spiritually as well. That's why we have to get saved, because of the sin in our life. And just to finish it up and to finish this lesson, and I can hopefully stay under my 2 hours, which I got like 5 minutes left. In verse 31, he says, Later, his brothers and other relatives went down to get his body. They took him back home and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol, where his father Manoah was buried. Samson had been Israel's judge for 20 years. And number 21, I mean, my last point is going to be a reference to number 21, which is it limits the time you could use to do God's work. Because he only got 20 years because he was so sinful. Imagine had he never told that girl, hooked up with that girl and told her his secret. He might have could have lived 40 years. He could have lived 60 years doing God's work, leading the people to freedom from under this oppression of the Philistines. We don't know how much time he could have had and how much he really could have done because he never got to live up to his potential because he kept on giving into the sin. See what I'm saying? And that's what sin does. What I told y'all, I think it was on 25. It takes away your power to do the work. That's why he didn't have the power to do the work. Sin keeps you. That's why I said also, and I think it was number 12, you regress instead of progress. Sin keeps you down. It doesn't lift you up. It makes you feel like it's lifting you up. It makes you feel like you're getting ahead. It makes you feel like you're having a great time. But in reality, all it's doing is draining you dry and keeping you from living up to your full potential, ultimately leading to your death. That's what sin does. So that is the result of sin, people. So I hope y'all enjoyed that. I know it was a long lesson, and I think each video was right at 2 hours. So it was a lot there. And you remember, like the first time I did it, I just kind of sped through it. But when I really got to get into it, and since we've been going chapter by chapter anyway, like I'm gonna really dig into this and pull out all these points and all this wisdom that is in these chapters, so we can see that. We have to see that, y'all. Please see that. Please look at your life and see we all got some Delilahs in our life, but look at your life and find your Delilah. Ask the Lord if you can't, if it's not obvious to you, if you're just oblivious to it, ask the Lord to show it to you and get away from it because you see where you're going to end up at. You see the end results of sin. The end results of sin to Delilah is death. You see what I'm saying? And not only on the way to death, it pulls you away from God. You lose that wall of protection. You know what I'm saying? You lose your status, you lose your life, you lose your loved ones, you lose money. It always takes way more than it gives. And I pray that after y'all listen to it, if y'all only watching this first video, please go back and watch the first one so you have a full explanation of everything I talked about. But ultimately, you see sin takes more than it gives. And the end result of sin is you dying broken alone somewhere by yourself, surrounded by your enemies. That's a possibility when you get on that path of sin because that's what it's going to lead you to. So, y'all, that is it. That is the result of sin. Phew, I was able to finish it up. I wanted to be an hour and a half, but it's right at 2 hours. So I said it's been an hour and a half. And I just really, like I said, I hate that my videos so long. I really do want to break them down. But I just got to make sure, when I bring this word, I want to make sure people fully understand what's being said. I don't just want to give a quick lesson just to stay under some timetable. I want to make sure when you watch these videos, you fully understand and you have a full explanation of what I'm trying to prove here. You know what I'm saying? What I'm trying to, the wisdom I'm trying to relay, and that is we got to stay away from sin. Because if you continue to stay on that path that sin puts you on, it's going to end badly, and ultimately it's going to end in your death. So that's finishing up Samson. So of course we only got about 4 more chapters before we're done with the book of Judges, and I'm gonna go through those. There's no more judges, and it's weird. There is no more judges throughout the rest of the chapters, but we got a little weird situation that we see that happens because of people getting away from the Lord. So God willing, next Monday night, 7 o'clock, I'll be back here, same back channel, same back time, and we'll go through the next chapter in the book of Judges as we finish this book of Judges up. But as always, if there's anything you want me to talk about that I haven't covered yet, any stories I haven't covered yet, please reach out to me and let me know, and I will work those into my lesson plan. Be sure to keep sharing the videos and tell others about it. I've been having so many people that's been reaching out and checking out these videos that I didn't even know about, so it's been a blessing because I know y'all out there telling people about it. So that's been a blessing. Keep doing so this mission can go and this word can keep getting out there. Of course, we've been talking about the results of sin, and of course, like I told y'all earlier, the final result is the death of the physical death, but it's also a spiritual death. So if you've been living a life and you are a sinner, because we all sin and come short of the will of God, and you're not 100% sure that if you go through that door called death that you're going to be able to see the Lord on the other side, please reach out to me so I can share the gospel with you, and so you can know for sure when you go through that door called death that you can get to see the Lord on the other side. Reach out to me, and I can tell you what you need to know so you can save your soul. And also, if you need any kind of spiritual counseling, got any kind of Bible questions or want to discuss the Bible, whatever, just reach out to me and let me know. I'll schedule some time on my schedule so I can speak with you on it.
and try to get those questions answered. I always tell y'all I'm not a theologian, but I do my best with the wisdom that the Lord has provided me with. And as always, this is my YouTube page. If you ever want to watch any of my older videos or any of my videos, you don't feel like scrolling all back down through my Facebook, this is an easier place to find them. You go to youtube.com, type in God's Servant / Lost Sheep Ministry with a space between each one, and it takes you to my channel. And I ain't gonna lie, I am a little bit behind. I haven't put any of the ones. Matter of fact, I don't think I've loaded any since I did my testimony back in February. So I got to get caught back up. I've been real busy, been having a lot going on, but I will get caught back up. I probably got about like 5 or 6 videos I need to get uploaded on there. But you know what I'm saying, that I will get them in the next couple of weeks. I will try to at least. But until then, like I said, you just gotta just tune in. You can go down on my Facebook and watch because I always post them on my Facebook page. So that being said, I'm done. I'm right at 2 hours on the dot. So I'm gonna say a quick prayer and I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here, y'all. Dear Lord, Heavenly Father, thank you so much for watching over us. Thank you for this wonderful lesson that we got to look at. And I really, again, enjoy this lesson when we look at the life of Samson because we get to see sin from the beginning to the end. We get to see it the whole in its entirety and what it takes us through, what it takes from us, what it gives us, but yet more important, what it takes from us. And I pray that everybody will see that as they go through. I pray they will have the patience because I know these videos are kind of long, so I pray they will have the patience to just watch the videos in their entirety and soak up that wisdom that you have provided for them through these teachers, Lord. And I pray more importantly that you bring them under conviction, help them look at their lives and see if they got some Delilahs in their lives, and help them look at their lives, Lord, and get those Delilahs, realize find those Delilahs, spot those Delilahs, and realize the importance of getting those Delilahs out of their life before it does what it did to Samson, and take them out in a terrible way. More importantly, take them away from you and diminish your glory in his life, Lord. So I just pray you just watch over us all, help us all see our Delilahs, help us all break free from these Delilahs so we can give our heart to you, step away from the sin, and live our lives according to your word, Lord, the way you want us to live our lives, doing the things you want us to do, and stand away from the things you don't want us to do. So as you just keep us all safe tonight, continue to watch over us and bless us and guide us. Again, bring us under conviction so we can do the work you have for us to do, and just continue to guide us in the direction we need to go so we can honor and glorify your name. Keep us safe as we finish up this night, Lord. Continue to be with all your churches, all your servants, and all those who give their heart to serve your purpose, your will. Give us your power, love, wisdom of any problem that arises. May keep us from doing your work and just give us the encouragement, enthusiasm we need to go for and glorify your name. And just continue to use me, my family, and this church to do a wonderful work in your name, to honor and glorify your name and build your kingdom. We love you so very much. Thank you for this lesson. Thank you for the wisdom. And we say this prayer in your wonderful son, Jesus' name. Amen. So thank y'all for hanging there with me tonight. Again, I know it was long, but I did get it finished up. I'm right at 2 hours, maybe a minute or over. But it was just so much there. And I just hope this really helped you. I hope that if you're watching this video, especially watching this entirety, you was able to see some Delilahs in your life and you realize the importance of doing what you need to do to get away from them before you end up on that road, that path of destruction, which is waiting for you at the end. So I love you all. If you're part of my lost sheep and you're watching, we will be having our meeting tonight. I think I've already sent out the text and some of y'all responded already. But we'll be meeting tomorrow night, 6 o'clock at River Lake Baptist Church. But until then, I hope you all will gather back here with me again next Monday, 7 o'clock. So we can go over the next lesson in this book of Judges. So until then, keep praying for me. I'll keep praying for y'all. And remember to always watch your back and pray. I love you all. Peace.